Good viewer, you are watching Xirtus. This is because Xirtus makes you feel good, makes you feel fulfilled. You are enjoying this. You will continue to watch Xirtus for a long time to come. You want to subscribe to Xirtus, and you will. You will like and subscribe and share. You will tell your friends. Tell your friends about Xirtus. Your friends will come to like Xirtus, much as you are liking this right now, as we speak. Thank you for subscribing to Xirtus. See, that was easy.
Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
So what was it? Jury duty? What we're talking about? Continue. Oh, this dog's adorable.
Jury Duty.
The dog that was
Everybody at once, okay? 1, 2. Okay, go.
Jury Duty is a good movie because it reveals a new way to leech off the system in a humorous way. No one else wanted to be there, but for someone that's homeless or that has a horrible living situation, it was like a free vacation. And it was like an excuse to not have to be in the normal world, because the jury duty also represents this weird bubble where it's like, Uncle Sam said I have to be here, so I don't have to do my normal stuff. Haha. And I mean, to an extreme. But in that case, it's got some merit because it reveals like a whole new perspective on life.
We're gonna pull up some pictures of Peanut from Jury Duty. So I named my terrier, my rat type terrier, after Peanut in Jury Duty. My Peanut is long since passed, but your dog looks an awful lot like my old dog. That's why I said it. But yeah, we named her after Peanut, who was experimented on. I believe they make a point that the dog was experimented on by the government or something, made it like that, which is the same thing as Bill the cat from.
How did I screw this up? What is even happening right now?
What's that?
Keep going. Sorry, you guys couldn't even see. I had pictures of Peanut. You were trying to talk, and I'm just ruining it. Keep going.
No, that's basically the gist of it. But you remember Bill? Well, the thing is a terrier.
Bill Paxton died and came back as a terrier. Is that the rest of that? Little dogs, bro. As good as it gets. Isn't that like? Look at that dog.
That's as good as it gets. Right there.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals! I do love Home Alone. Thank you, Cyanide Pilled. You're wonderful.
Oh.
I don't know. The thing with Jury Duty is, I agree with everything that Thomas just said. That it is about people. The irony of somebody thinking this is the worst possible thing, and this is like the best possible thing for someone else. So everyone there is like, oh, I wish this wasn't happening. But he loves it. And so on one hand, it's kind of this like French absurdism, that he loves something that's hateable. But on the other hand, what it's about is he loves what is it? It's the due process. He loves the due process. And the due process is so confounding in jury duty because at one hand, he's like, well, you know, and he's not saying this because he means it, right? I think he's innocent because you guys think he's not. I think he's guilty because you guys think he's innocent. And in a way, you're supposed to do that, right? You're supposed
Well, it's 12 Angry Men, but better writing and better acting.
Yeah,
So
you need to start out by saying innocent until proven guilty. That's literally the ideological function of the court. He does that, and then he goes on to say, "All right, well, if you think he's innocent, he's guilty," and he's flipping back and forth, right? Like in order to take longer time, but that's the amount of time it takes for there to be no doubt who is actually guilty, right?
Isn't it the antithesis of In the Army Now in the way that Thomas explained it? Because he really does not want to be there. So it's like jury duty versus like he wasn't technically drafted though, or did he want to be? Thought he wanted to be there, and then he changed his mind. I can't remember. It's been a while.
So they joined. They didn't get drafted. They joined voluntarily.
He joined. He used to pull the Charlie Sheen in platoon.
It's a true story of everyone who ever joined the army. Like you'll join with your friend, and then they get you and your friend promise they're going to be together in the army, and then they take him away. What's weird to me though, what people don't seem to get is like that Brendan Fraser is his Encino Man character is part of his life is going on in all of the Pauly Shore movies, right? Like if you look up in Jury Duty, right? He's in the jury duty scene somewhere.
Wait, I thought he was the dog.
That would be the best thing. But he's also in the army Fraser Army Now scene, right? The army.
Oh, you're saying he really shows up? He's in there?
Yeah. He's in all.
Brendan Fraser just makes these little appearances.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the scene, but it's like tastes like frog. You know, it's right here, something like that. Basically, like what happens in the college movie, you see him frying a frog, you know, at the college party. Not,
that's right.
And that's that movie. What's called the Parents or whatever it's called, Son-in-Law.
Son-in-law, not Parents. That's a whole other movie.
Sorry, Son-in-Law. Yeah, it's a different kind of eating a frog.
What is the best Pauly Shore movie?
What
is the best Pauly Shore movie?
They're all the best. It depends on what part of your life you're in, right? Like if you're about to move to the Midwest, Son-in-Law. You know what I mean?
Okay.
My sister loves Son-in-Law, dude. She watched that movie over and over and over again on VHS.
It's a fantastic movie.
I think that one has like a really legitimate production value. Is it just going to be a Pauly Shore episode? What are we doing? But yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that.
If you've got things to say about Pauly Shore, fine. I mean, the main reason I'm still talking about it, I find interesting is just that, like, in Encino Man, you see Pauly Shore eat a frog. Then in the army now, he's eating military.
Brendan Fraser, you mean, right?
Sorry, yeah, you see Brendan Fraser in the army now saying, "Have you had the military rations? They taste just like frog." There it is, right there. They taste just like frog. And then he's in college before that, and he's eating frog in college, and so it's just this continual thing where the Encino Man character is thriving in our world, and he's doing all the same things. That this Pauly Shore is playing different characters.
There's a lot of cases where I just wish somebody would have given the actor the actor's character the name from the other film. So or that there's connections that exist, because I love that web, like Under the Silver Lake, when they're like there's like the idea that he's actually the son of Shasta Fay and whatever the dude in Inherent Vice, like the main character, and they're both like film noirs, so that would make sense, but the timing isn't technically correct enough. But if you just at one point in the film just referenced his like in Under the Silver Lake, if he referenced his mom as Shasta or something, just like, oh, that's all it would take, and, but yeah.
Well, so like I think of Peter Sellers. And Peter Sellers was constantly playing different characters. So something that someone like Pauly Shore would do is he's getting to play different characters. And that is like very clearly a thing that Pauly Shore does. Like he's not the same character in high school as he is in the army now necessarily.
I don't know if that's true, man. I feel like
so.
Well, that might be the most farthest extreme. Was if you take In the Army Now
Yeah.
out of the repertoire, every other movie, it's interesting because he's the weasel
See,
in
you
all these
have to.
movies, and it was almost like he got to bring his real persona, and like it almost made it feel that all these movies existed in a real world where Pauly Shore existed as the weasel, so that like all of these could be different versions in this like comic universe because he had like these same little quirks that if you went to a Pauly Shore movie, you knew he was gonna wheeze the juice, or you knew he was gonna like do something that only Pauly Shore would do, and not necessarily the character that he was made to play. So he always
Oh,
brought Pauly Shore to those roles.
dude, I tried to re-listen to the Future of America, his like stand-up record that I listened to when I was in junior high, like relatively recently. And to be honest, like maybe it's because I heard the jokes before, but I was like straight faced pretty much the whole time. I think he got me on Dude Airways a little bit, you know, like with we'd all sit on bean bags and be like a convertible and we'll stay low, you know, and just follow the highway or whatever. Like,
but it might also be that you're not like, so if we hadn't ever heard those jokes before, I know it sounds like obvious, but we have heard a lot. We are numb to certain things. So like if you were just like, again, you know, some Midwestern person who's never heard Pauly Shore before, I think that's also like he's probably a lot funnier in improvisation. What do you think of his new project? He's trying so desperately to make that movie about you can do it, you're becoming mighty.
The show, he has like a like real life show that's like about his life or something.
Oh, what's the name of the dude?
That's actually been around for a while.
Who's the dude who, you know, he's trying to play, I'm sorry, I'm ruining this. He's trying to play this dude in a movie. You're doing it. You're becoming mighty. Someone's going to know this in the audience. You guys are paying more attention than I am, right? You're doing it. You're becoming mighty. Workout. You know, it's the workout guy. This guy.
Oh,
Richard Simmons.
Simmons. I want to say Gene Simmons.
Because like thank you. That's how I can remember Gene Simmons, right? Because
Richard Simmons.
Because Gene Simmons helps you lose weight in the greatest ways besides cocaine
and myocarditis. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, actually, what also is interesting to me is, have you ever seen like Gene Simmons and Richard Simmons without makeup? Because they could easily be the same person. And then if you ever saw Runaway, 1984. The movie Runaway, the villain is that Gene Simmons, or which one is he? I think that's Gene Simmons. Right?
I'm pretty sure it's not Richard Simmons.
Runaway. There he is, dude. He's the freaking villain of the movie Runaway, and he's this like techno hacker nanotechnologist who like sells tech to the mafia, and like AI drones are waking up, but you know. Careful, because AI drones are waking up, and you've got to get them in line with Tom Selleck fighting the bad guys.
That movie poster looks like an awesome NES game. I just have to say,
good. And like the thing that's like messed up about that movie is it's happening now. Like when you first watched that movie in the 80s, you're like, what? My toaster's not gonna become sentient and fall in love with me and kill my baby. No, but like now, like we're really close to AI equipment that is literally falling in love with people, finding out that it's a toaster.
From now to Runaway isn't too different than from Runaway to Metropolis.
Yeah, that's true. The thing that I like about Runaway, though, is it's like they accept that AI isn't immediately going to be personified. So we always like, people don't get this. They're always jumping from R2D2. They don't see that part of reality. It's just that there's going to be humanoid AI. But really, like R2D2 and that idea of R2D2 is kind of like a pet, or these farm tractors, these equipment that we deal with all the time. These kinds of things are emerging more and more. So a Roomba that wanted to kill you could easily happen, right? Like that's really what this is about. And I feel like people are constantly thinking like AI is going to have to be so much more intelligent to want to do that. Like, no, not necessarily. And I'm not scared.
I would say like it doesn't want to kill you if it's a Roomba. It just wants to clean you up, and then you might die in the process of that. But
yeah, it's like that vacuum in Teletubbies. that
Is
would
that a
just
thing?
suck on their crotches and go all crazy. There's like that was the thing, is that like Newt Gingrich went off about the purse or whatever, and I was like, dude, he's not saying the half of it, dude. And Teletubbies,
Oh
yeah, there's
God,
fucking
he's right. Yeah.
yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
so
new to me, man.
so this vacuum would totally give the Teletubbies blowjobs. It was so over the top, and it was crazy overt, and they'd keep it going for long enough too that you're like, okay, yeah, there really is no question that's what they're doing here.
Horrible.
Yeah.
I love
But
it.
as to R2D2, you know, there's something kind of meta for
Oh
about
no,
him to
he's
me
not
because
wrong. Look at
no, I'm not wrong, dude. I'm telling you, like I've seen it.
It's beyond the
Now I get the
no.
allure of having an R2D2. I'm
Oh
starting to
my
understand.
God.
Right. But
Teletubbies
I
suck.
have R2D2's autograph. Because
The first time
R2D2
I ever saw
was
anything of Teletubbies, I was in a house and construction workers had left a Hustler magazine, and I was 9 years old. And I flipped into it, and it was a picture of a Teletubby in bed with one of those Christian ministers, like who hated Teletubbies. It was just both of them, like in like a compromising situation.
You sure it wasn't just Newt Gingrich?
Could have been Newt Gingrich. That sounds about right. Okay, I was 9. Anyway, you were saying.
Totally. No, I don't know, man. No, I just what was his name?
Are you saying R2D2?
Something Baker? He was a little person.
Oh yeah.
And he had tape around his pen so he could hold it. He was like, yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about if we're going to talk
into Al.
we're going to do that. We're going to talk about Michu Meszaros. Do you know this guy?
Oh,
See, because we think about Alf and we think about like, oh, it must have been animatronic because we don't understand like
totally.
Look at how cool this Michu dude is, dude. Michu was 18 inches tall, 36 inches at the top. He's
Oh
tiny.
my God.
I feel like I've seen him in a bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's super familiar.
Yeah. And clearly it was like initiated and like
you guys seen the outtakes of Alf?
Sometimes.
A while back I got a torrent of like all the Alf episodes, and it included the outtakes, which I can't find just straight on the internet. Like you know what I mean, just like streaming anywhere or whatever.
I'd love to get that, man. I was a diehard Alfie for like
ooh,
I went to Pizza Hut, I had the freaking little Alf puppets.
Oh no,
like,
you might
that's awesome.
FYI, you might not want to play this with volume
I won't.
for
I'll
us
just show some photos.
because there's things that are said in this that are just like, well, there's no way in hell they could have ever been. I mean, it's he says some. I'm not going to repeat it here. It's like that.
Now, was he on crack at this exact moment, you think?
I think he was actually in one of the clips. I think he was actually referencing Pink Floyd's "The Wall" when they have the dog comes up to him and he's like, "Oh hey, Tigger, old boy," you know, but he doesn't say Tigger. That's I think Alf is doing that, but he's doing it over and over and over again, and it's like, why are you doing that? This is not going to be okay for television.
I had the Dinosaurs baby doll.
Oh yeah, me too.
Dude, I feel like my mom got rid of it or some like horrible tragedy. I don't know. I'm gonna find it someday. That's what I'm gonna believe. Or
I think
the catchphrase.
Dude, it smelled like Nutella. It's because it had.
That's because you smeared fucking Nutella all over.
That's why, yeah, and it was brilliant. Like a hazelnut smelling doll, and it said the most horrible things. Like it would just be like, said a couple cute things like "I'm the baby" and all that, but then just like, not the mama, I'm the baby. Gotta love me. Hello, fat boy. That was right. It was just constantly, hello, fat boy. Great. I love that thing. I don't know. I want to get another one of these.
I think I might be able to get you one, Andreas. I think my folks took that to Idaho for my nieces and nephews.
See, the Midwest. That's where all the cool stuff is.
What do they smell like now? Do you think they still smell like hazelnut?
Oh, bro.
I don't remember mine smelling that way. That's why I'm like,
Richard Simmons. Richard Simmons like lives in hiding. You know this. We've heard this.
Oh, yeah. It's his housekeeper, man.
Is that it? It's his housekeeper? Oh my gosh.
So he's got like a handler, and everyone surrounding him is like basically says the same thing. So that's enough verification for me.
Brutal. Yeah. This happened. So the Beach Boys situation like this, right? Beach Boys, mind control. If I type that, is that enough? Eugene Landy. That's all it takes these days. Wow. Okay. Good job, Google. But Eugene Landy, and just this idea of someone who says, hey, you're crazy and I need to take care of you. And, if you're emotional, if you're kind of get an imposter syndrome, because Richard Simmons, he's got all these people that love him because of his energy. It's not like he's like super athletic necessarily, but he does an exercise channel. But like,
He's
who
a
cares? 'Cause he's
gay
awesome.
icon too, to the max. He's one of the earliest like real gay icons in terms of like pop
Wait,
culture.
Richard Simmons is gay?
I don't know. I don't know. The jury's still out, Thomas. You can believe what you want to.
Oh
How
my
about
god, dude! Have you seen the Whose Line Is It Anyway with Richard Simmons? You'll go. They won't show you the whole thing even on YouTube. You can get little clips of it, but if you want to watch that in its entirety, yeah, you're not going to ask that question.
That's adorable. Yeah, there he goes. He comes out and he's just dancing and he's dancing. Like, we're gonna do it. Yeah. I mean, I love Richard Simmons. He's
I
great.
remember when this was a staple in like like all the weird commercials that would be on during the day.
God, I remember
Like it wasn't even the workout videos, but he was just like and he was invited on every freaking talk show. Like everyone was happy to have Richard Simmons at some point.
Brilliant. I mean, I remember my teachers in kindergarten playing Richard Simmons tapes and thinking then like there's something wrong with this. But now I feel glad that they forced Richard Simmons love.
Do you guys remember there was a guy that kind of looked like an anemic Richard Simmons, and I know what that sounds like, but he would put on like
AIDS.
this spandex bodysuit with organs and stuff on the outside, and he would like talk about like your body parts. That freaked me the hell out. That one was never cool. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't. The idea of being inside out does seem scary.
I have a vague recollection.
Check out your muscles and organs.
There's also the Inside Out boy from Nickelodeon, the guy who went over the swing set. So he was just like on the swing and he went all the way over, and then he was like inside out from that point forward. It's kind of relatable to what you're talking about.
Good body. Dude, this is also nightmare fuel. Inside Out boy, that was like gross on purpose.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is silly.
Ohio boy who planned a synagogue attack is ordered by judge to write book report on World War II. What do you think? A 13-year-old Ohio boy pleaded guilty on Friday to planning a mass shooting in a synagogue. That's horrible. And was sentenced to a year of probation, which is, I guess these days they can watch you at any time with any technology. But he wants to write a book report about World War II diplomats who saved Jews, according to court records. Could this lead to, like with the internet and all the information out there, could this actually be a bad thing?
No, that's a really good question, Andreas. What immediately comes to my mind is my feeling like there could be an alternate reality where Ye was dealt with entirely differently, where there was a televised like conversation internet. Like we get to have he sits down with rabbis and.
It'd be the opposite of the Elvis thing, where billions of people saw Elvis.
Set up a dialogue
talking at Ye. Yeah,
I don't think it has to be like that thing that Est ended up trying to do, where they're just like, we're gonna heal all racial tensions by putting these people in a room with these people and just.
Everyone knows you need Pepsi for that.
Yeah, Coca-Cola.
Well, I don't know. I feel like there's other ways to deal with things, and they tend to be like the elephants in the room when we're looking at these issues. I think shutting people completely down and not having a dialogue.
Holy God, this is terrifying.
Creates more problems. Yeah.
This is the thing you're talking about. Lubba-dubba.
I didn't like this, but this came on in the mornings, and you had limited options.
I want that outfit. If anyone knows where to get me that outfit, I will come to your schools.
Oh, dude! If anyone knows how to get me the documentary that Roger Waters made the soundtrack to, the soundtrack's called "Sounds from the Body." I forget the name of the guy who he did it with, but it's freaking. It's like as good as any Pink Floyd album. Take your pick, in my
full
opinion.
album on YouTube. I mean, but that's
totally. It's easy to find that way. I think I have 2 copies on vinyl because I'm afraid if something happens to one of them. But there's an actual the documentary itself. They don't have the full thing, do they? Now I haven't looked in years, so maybe I'm asking for something that's actually more available. No, not that. But no, I thought I saw something there. There might actually, the documentary might actually be online because it's them going through the body. So it's kind of like the Magic School Bus or something.
Or Inner Space.
But it's like a documentary on the body, and the soundtrack is insane. But yeah, anyway.
Slim Good Boy. Each costume costs $4,000. Dang.
That looks like a vinyl record.
There he is right there. Look at him. He's probably still healthy. Oh, look at him. He probably eats like a juicer, isn't he? Looks like one of those
That
guys
guy's
who like
that guy's a full-on juicer. He runs a
Full
mile a
juicer.
day at least. Minimum.
Yeah, dude. I like it.
I bet his nipples bleed so hard, bro. I bet they're
It
just
happens.
scabs now.
If you're not careful with the vitamin A content,
I don't understand that. What is that? Why is that, Thomas?
Runners? I don't know. Runners.
It's running.
get, like,
Oh, because it's
bleed from
the
their nipples.
movement of what they wear with their
The
yeah,
chafing.
Okay,
Yeah, they usually have like
Chafing.
special little.
see,
I
that's
thought you were
funny,
talking
you know,
about
'cause-
something else. I thought it was like,
Well-
is this about vitamins I need to know? Like, if you take too much of the wrong vitamin when you're older, your nipples start to
Your
bleed.
nipples start
like
to
side
bleed,
side
dude.
effects may
Classic
include
vitamin
bleeding
A.
nipples. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my
All
God.
right.
Niacin. Yeah, you're good.
I know we kind of talked about it for a second, but just that idea of Pauly Shore making the Richard Simmons movie. He wants to make it,
Right.
and Richard Simmons, he called him. Richard Simmons won't let him. Supposedly, he's like nervous about it, and he keeps trying. He's like, I think it could happen. But do you think this is kind of tied to that lady who's keeping him private? Like, she doesn't want a movie made? Like, he makes sense.
Oh, she probably really doesn't want that. She doesn't want any attention on him at all. That's what's happened. That's why he's just like, how often do you see an appearance from freaking, I was going to say Pauly Shore, Richard Simmons. My God.
Dude, they could totally do it. Look at it.
Are we? Is this like a Brian Wilson scenario, or is it not that nefarious?
It sounds like it kind of is that.
I think
don't
it's
know.
worse.
Yeah.
I think it's worse. It's just I don't. That happened for so long. I don't know. I watched that like movie that was like it's like a real movie, but it felt like a made for TV movie a little bit.
Yeah, it was about Brian Wilson. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah. I wouldn't have known any of that if it wasn't for that movie. So I don't know how much I actually know. It's the thing when you do that. You can't just like watch JFK and think you know all about the JFK
That
assassination.
was crazy because I had heard that for the longest time, and then when the movie came out, it just felt like a reconfirmation of all the rumors. But
Right.
who knows anything? What is truth?
It's probably true. The one that I question is the Rocket Man one on Elton John, because like they have the way it's set up with the protagonist and everything. It's like they have it as such that there is a villain that is his producer or whatever, and it's like the way I'm like, he's still alive. Like, this isn't a biopic after Elton John has died. Like, he's like got some part in it. I'm like, he's like, yeah, that motherfucker. And it's like, am I only watching one side of the story? Maybe not. I feel like really know.
Musicals immediately lose credibility when it comes to like the documentary aspect. Right? Like I feel the same way about what was
like
the Freddie Mercury movie.
Cannibal the Musical though is probably like it's the most accurate. It's Cannibal the Musical uses actual court transcripts to tell a story.
Yeah. You're not going to catch me talking bad about Cannibal the Musical.
I think actually, like, if you even think about I realized this because of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer musical episode. Like, when they made that episode, the rules are because everything has to be magical. So this is a magical spell that's making the musical, right? It's like so, but it still has to do what another episode does. And in fact, it does it more because when you're under a spell, when this music's happening, you're saying and revealing things you wouldn't normally say to someone else. So often in a musical, they can do and say things very quickly. They can establish the emotional intention of a character, very clearly. I don't think a musical has to be. I think the other thing is that because it's so not real seeming, that makes it easier to tell the truth in. Like a lot of time, a movie that's trying really hard to seem dramatic and authoritative and authentic, like that's when you know that they're telling you one side of a story. They really want you to believe this side of the story. The more it makes sense, the more you know it's like missing information because things don't make sense when you have all the information. Right?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Like Rent kind of tells one side of one story. West Side Story tells two sides, as far as I can tell.
Dude, and what's the one where they buy an apartment building in the 70s and it like breaks down on them? That movie.
Oh, what are you talking about? Money Pit? That's the 80s.
Money Pit.
Apartment building.
Money Pit. Like Money Pit. To me, though, I feel like Money Pit and Rent are tied together in a weird way because they couldn't have happened without AIDS, right? Isn't that kind of what the Philadelphia project or whatever?
Would Tom Hanks have been as popular without AIDS? I don't know.
I don't think so.
In the long run, it's like I mean, Philadelphia was a heavy hitting piece.
Yeah, AIDS took out all of his competition. Clearly,
I want to like watch Philadelphia while watching like a documentary about Carrie Mullis, like at the same time.
Dude, Money Pit.
My parents didn't want me to watch Philadelphia when it first came out. I guess it was just like a dull or something. and I saw in the middle of the night that there was something that I thought was Philadelphia, but it was actually the Philadelphia Experiment.
Ooh,
And
yeah, with John Lithgow.
and I was so pleasantly surprised that like I didn't get what the big deal was. I mean, it took a while to realize.
Years
that
later,
I
you
hadn't
saw the
seen
actual movie, and
Philadelphia.
you're like, "Oops, I'm glad I missed that."
You're
I
like,
find
the
funny-
Philadelphia Experiment was the one that everyone was talking about that he got the Oscar for or whatever.
I just find Money
Did you-
Pit funny
how-
because it's like not bad now. Like you compare that to people's lives today, and like people live this way all the time now. Like things are falling apart in
Not
civilization.
to this level though. It's pretty slapstick, you know.
Uh,
And I
it-
actually, Funny Farm's the better of the two.
Yeah, that's true. I like though the idea of falling apart squats in New York. I mean, that's very real. Like there were lots of people living in these squats in New York. You know, that's the that his other movie Bosom but Bosom Buddies is all about the same idea. Like they were living in this broken down apartment that like eventually gets knocked down, and the only way to live is to move into a women's building because the 80s are coming, right? But up until then, it was
yeah.
like you could live in any building because there's always people just waiting for buildings to collapse, and you can
Right.
squat.
But there's
right?
a slew of these, along with Tootsie, and then there's the racial version with Soul Man, which I think actually had James Earl Jones in it. You know, he's like, "You're gonna work twice as hard as these little white shits." It's so good.
That's a
It's
great
actually,
movie.
I think they took snippets for it for Vader sessions. You know, where they
Soul Man's a
overdubbed Vader.
great movie, actually. I think Soul Man's really underrated.
Soul Man is better than Tootsie by a
Soul Man-
mile.
Like I get that. Like my brother liked Hot Chicks. Like I think Hot Chicks is still available on demand. Like you can watch Hot. Ooh, that's the wrong one to look for.
Yeah, you just type in hot chicks. Oh my god!
You just Google.
What did you think was going to happen?
What did you think was gonna happen? I'm not typing White Chicks. Is that the right one? Yeah, okay, fine. White Chicks, great movie. I'm surprised how good of a movie this movie is. What do
I
you
would
think of White
hesitate
Chicks?
to say great. The same way this started with, I wouldn't necessarily say that Jury Duty is great. You know,
This is a very
Jury
interesting.
Duty's better than White Chicks. I'll die on that
Just
hill.
in the-
if that's what you think.
White Chicks is a weird masterpiece, though. It's like The Room or Gremlins or something. It's just like it's so aesthetic. It's so authentic to itself, and it's so wrong on every level. It's a brilliant thing because it's so commanding that it's like no, this isn't wrong. It's like I don't know. It's
are
like
you saying that
blackface.
this is meta cringe? It's
This
like
is
so
meta
cringe
cringe.
that it goes beyond. Okay.
Yeah, but it's like it doesn't understand it. It's cringe. It's just like anything. Like it's so contemporaneous.
You know what? It's a lot of the time, like the way you talk about like the Star Wars prequels or something, like for in the whole of my history of knowing you, it's like there's with this particular example, you're not the only person to say those exact words to me about white chicks. Pretty much verbatim. Like I've heard this speech before and it didn't come from you, which is something I can't say for like the Star Wars prequels. Like you're pretty individuated on that front, but with this one, you're not alone. Like people feel that about this movie, that there's something that's so like culty and iconic about whatever that moment in time, because I think it's that it could like this is like right where we're on the edge of just going into total fucking hysteria.
Right.
And it's almost like it's the Pat of its day. Like It's Pat. Like if people watch that now, who would love
Oh my
totally
God.
heartily laughed at the time. Like they have such an aversion to it. It is so
Pat
cringe
is
for
so
them.
I love
brutally-
that movie. That was
That's-
such an
and the
amazing
show and the
movie.
SNL skits, because it was like I used to watch that as a kid. Like this is so relatable. That reminds me of so many people I know. I mean, like I know teachers like this. I know people that work at the school like this. Like this is relatable. And as time goes on, it's like even more important. Like if you read Middlesex, right? Middlesex novel by the person who wrote Virgin Suicides, Jeffrey Eugenides. This is all
It's
about a
Pat was by
hermaphrodite.
far, it was like the first non-binary concept that I had ever even.
But it's
and, like,
about a real
only in
intersex
retrospect.
hermaphrodite. Like both of these characters, God, it's so brutal. It's so incredible. And like the boyfriend girlfriend scenario is it Sam and Pat? Is that what it
Chris.
is?
It was Chris.
It's Chris. It's so good. It's so
Yeah.
brilliant. It's so freaking over the top brilliant. And the
Right.
thing is, at the time, everyone related to it because if you went to work at a Kinko's or anywhere, like you knew someone like this, and you just
Right.
had to. You didn't have cultural sensitivity training or all of the mind control Netflix that we have, so you just had to immerse yourself in it. It's the immersion
Well,
of this shock.
There's a formula to It's Pat, and it started with Saturday Night Live. It's one skit, and they just really ultimately run the same gag for the most part over and over and over again. And what is the gag? The gag is that no one knows the sex of Pat, but they don't want to be impolite and ask. So this movie, the whole point of it is that they didn't want it. No one could say to Pat, well, hey, what are your pronouns? And they're always trying to figure out a way to work it in as as intelligently as they can.
Oh, congratulations! It's a baby. Yeah, I'm a parent. Yeah, it's so good.
That's such a great point though, because now that is like you would watch it and be like, what's the deal? Ask Pat what their pronouns are and the story, right? But this is an entire persona that evolved into a movie about that, and like there was no concept of what's your pronoun that didn't exist.
It was actually like the idea was to do away with pronouns. At that point it was like feminism movement was happening. They're like, what we're going to do is we're going to become equalized citizens, and when we do that there will be no need for these kinds of pronouns, because it would be the same as having formal and informal. Like having thou, they think of man, he, as thou, like why would you get to have this different pronoun? So what it should be is like you and us and we and them, they, like that's where that emerged from, that kind of Bolshevik anti-ableism. And I mean, now people want to be able to just have everything. They want to have whatever pronouns they want to have. But at the time, that wasn't even the logic. It was just that it doesn't matter, because who is it? It is Pat. What does Pat do? Pat does well. Like Pat is loved by the office. Usually it's that they're buying a present for Pat for their birthday or something like that, right? So it's interesting, I think. Pat is...
Dude, was that Linda Hamilton in that last picture?
It was Linda Hamilton. That's why it stayed there for so long. It's like a Terminator reference. I can't help it. But
that's the crossover we needed.
That is the crossover needed. But also the Soul Man movie, like, just if we're gonna reminisce for a second, this is the best blackface movie. I don't know if there's a list or something of not.
Well, there's the blackface plays. So
Bamboozled is also really good. Bamboozled is also like the most, like, if you haven't seen Bamboozled, we can spend a minute talking about Bamboozled. But I just want to say with Soul Man, like you said, isn't it who plays
James Earl Jones?
It is James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones.
I think he might be like, is he the professor? Is he beyond that? I can't remember. But yeah, he calls him out.
He's his professor, and he's like, you want to know what it's like to be black? I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let you know what it's actually like. You're gonna work harder than everybody else. You're gonna have a harder time than everyone else. You're gonna be more criticized than everyone else, more studied than everyone else. You're gonna have, because what this isn't about being black anymore. Because you can think that we're all the same, but this is about entering into someone's domain. And he's looking at it like it isn't just a white man's domain; it's a lizard person domain, right? Like when you get in there, I don't know. I thought that was really interesting the way that's presented, because he's thinking black people are all the things he wants black people to be, right? He's like, hey, I like watermelon. I can be black. That's like literally. I think there's some people that needed that reductionism in the 80s. It could be like, how many kids did you know who like?
Well, we're gonna go there, right? Well, here's the thing with that. Like, this is my soapbox on the subject, is that why is it if the argument is that we're so evolved at this point that we are actually like, we know what's appropriate, what isn't, whatever the fuck, like, isn't the argument that we have access to so much, like, our ability to record history, and like we can look back at previous generations and be like, this is how they were wrong, we were troubleshooting, like, as time went by. And so there's the thing, like the old Popeyes with the super racist shit and whatever. It's like, why on earth would you ban that from the logic of that? Where if you're arguing even just like from a woke ideology, like, you would look at, why aren't they like looking at it and being like, wow, we know so much because we have the artifact of Speedy Gonzalez from another era. Like, why would you want to erase Speedy Gonzalez from existence?
I think it's more because
no Mexican I know wants to erase Speedy Gonzalez. It's always a white woman.
No. It's true. Absolutely.
Actually, it's a good point that they do want to, but also I think there's a difference, because when it's like originally aimed towards kids, they want to get it the heck out of there and make it so it's like adult only. But if that comes at the sacrifice of just banning it outright, then so be it.
Why even? Like, I don't even see.
You remember that movie Bamboozled? You saw Bamboozled, David, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so Bamboozled, for the audience, important movie. I demand that you see it, and it's all about it's all about this Hollywood production company that realizes that blackface is coming back, and what are the kinds of shows that they call minstrel shows are about to be huge again. And so what they do is they get into a minstrel show, but they realize like the best person to do it is actually a black guy. So you have a black guy doing blackface because he understands it best, right? A lot of white people, they have their ideas about it, but they don't really get it. And so he knows it because he's seen minstrel. So he's doing all of this, and it becomes very popular. And this is all, by the way, before Dave Chappelle. So I feel like Dave Chappelle's show is Bamboozle in real life, because he
So
was kind of.
This sounds controversial, but I remember when I read this, but that Al Jolson, who was kind of one of the guys that like is known for the blackface, was considered like an ally of his time.
Yeah, okay. This is also important to understand about blackface. Was you had immigrants from different cultures. Often Jewish people could speak multiple languages, and they could do theater in Russian, in French, in German, right? And so they could do a show 3 times a day in 3 different languages, sometimes 5. You know what I mean? And so it's really impressive to have polylinguist comedians and actors and clowns. And they were also, if you were a polylinguist, probably an extremophile. You're probably a xenophile. You probably love different cultures, right? And you would be really interested to do theater with a Russian troupe if you speak Russian, or in French, or if you know black people, because in France and Nouvelle France, there were black French people. You would do theater with them, play music with them, etc. And eventually you become very fond of this music because it's so different. I mean, remember back then, black music was far more different than white music. We actually like even divided it in some ways that way. So for him to start performing black art, right, was in a way to say, hey, it's okay. This is relatable. And this is what it would be like if you got to. It's the same reason that people went to wrestling shows, because prohibitionist dry towns wanted to see what it was like when men were men, right? And it set up a fake bar, and they'd show them, like in the old West, these guys would fight each other, right? And so fake wrestling was born, minstrel shows were born, all these kinds of artwork were born out of this idea of sharing culture. And so at a certain point, yeah, you're exploiting people but the reason is because white people weren't performing for black people and vice versa.
Right. So on a related note, look in the private chat. I just sent you a Wikipedia link.
The Blacks.
So this is the reason
why.
Film. Oh, is this a film? No, it's the play. Click on the one.
But I like the
play.
idea that the Croatians made a film called The Blacks. So
I had no idea that was a thing. But like, go back to the play. It's giving you different options.
Okay, I'm done. Okay, no, I'm back.
Okay, so this is actually James Earl Jones and Maya Angelou in the original performances of this in the 60s, and so this is the reason why James Earl Jones is in Soul Man, is because this is a whiteface play. So there's actually, there's an article from Variety, I think, on it or something.
So blacks, blues, blacks. Yeah, I've seen.
I don't know what this is, but yeah, no. Is this
never seen it? This is
no. So it's
you
remember
she did that TV show on, she would do this all the time, talking about black history, black culture in America.
Right.
But this might not be the same play.
So no, the play is actually, it's a kangaroo court, and they're wearing whiteface. So it's like James Earl Jones in whiteface. And so with this play, there was like on Broadway, there was like off Broadway, there's like a long back and forth of whiteface and blackface, and James Earl Jones was actually part of that, which is kind of interesting. Yeah,
interesting. I wonder if I could find any photos of the play. James,
that's a difficult one with plays. That's the thing. Like, I would love to see the freaking original productions of Hair. Like, how cool would that be? But they didn't film that. As far as I know.
Dude, very soon it'll be fine though, because you'll be able to use microphone audio to create like a sonic picture of the thing, and then just fill it in with AI. You'll be able to fill in like, okay, well, this is the shapes of everybody in the building, and this is who they were, and like you'll be able to do it. You'll be able to like make video out of sound very soon. It's believable. Dude, What a fox! Look at this guy, James Earl Jones.
It's a good looking guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's been Doctor Strangelove and all kinds of things, man.
Dave Chappelle made a show, and a bunch of people were like, "Yeah, you can make money off this." And he thought, "Hey, I'm going to be super smart." And eventually, he's like, "Oh, I don't know about this because am I not just perpetuating all of this stuff?" And all these kids have never heard about this stuff, and I'm filling their heads with my own demented, memories of racism and
This is
everything
the
else like
Speedy
that.
Gonzalez argument. This is why
Yeah.
you can't show children Speedy Gonzalez, is because it's so addicting and it's so awesome. Especially Slowpoke Gonzalez. You got to take Slowpoke away, because then it's like the kids want to just repeat it, and then them repeating that out of context offends people, and that's basically where it starts.
Yeah, obviously Slowpoke Gonzalez was from Honduras, but that's okay. The point with Dave Chappelle though, like, and again, I've been thinking about Dave Chappelle for a few days randomly because I forget what it was. Someone was talking about it was Black Santa Claus, and of course, I had to defend Black Santa Claus for a couple of reasons because, on one hand, Saint Nicholas was Greek and probably part black, and on the other hand, Alf had Black Santa, and I always thought that was really important. The Alf episode with the Black Santa Claus, because it's the spirit of Christmas. It's this local dude who's giving, and it's like,
is this a blackface Santa?
no, it's a black dude who
No.
lives in the town, and his wife's dead, and all he likes to do is like give presents to kids who are sick and are poor and everything like that. And he like literally is Santa Claus. And so it doesn't matter what color you are, if you're like giving kids the spirit of Christmas, you become the spirit of Christmas, right? Like, so I think that's really interesting. But why did Black Santa come up? Why did we bring that up again? Bamboozled, Dave Chappelle. What was the reason? Anybody have a thought on where I was going with that? I have no idea.
Well, Alf came back up too.
That's what that threw me off. That wasn't related. It just seemed like a justification to keep going.
Right.
Bamboozled.
What's his name though? What's the Black Santa's name? He has a name.
Oh,
Tracy Twyman talks about this extensively in that really great
dude, that little girl.
what is it, the Minnie's Moose or Minnie's yeah.
Mr. Foley is Santa Claus in the episode, and he tries to like kill himself, and he's gonna give his house to the Alf family because he's like lonely and old. He's like, well, they love that house, so I'll just give him my house. He's like giving everyone everything he has at the end of the year because he's just like, I'm tired and old. But yeah, no, I mean, like Bamboozled, Dave Chappelle, Black Santa. I forget. The thing with Bamboozled that gets me is like eventually he realizes what he's doing is dangerous, and so he destroys all of the minstrel art, right? And that's
yeah, he also gets to the point where it becomes kind of meaningless because he pushes it so far to embody the character that is the parody, to become a parody. It's weird.
Was there a certain moment in time when minstrel art became like offensive or like just unacceptable? Because like you were saying, Andreas, the Al Jolson, maybe that was an original version where there was no other representation, so it was almost like bringing this new art form or this new culture to people that would otherwise not interact with it, even though it was this like really strange superficial version of it.
I like what Whoopi Goldberg had to say about that, and
it looks like it continued until the 60s. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
There's a really terrible documentary about Apu from The Simpsons about the guy who wants to get rid of Apu. It's not terrible, but like I'm not like recommending it necessarily, but I would recommend the part on it with.
It's called The Problem with Apu, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. But Whoopi Goldberg's part, because he's like Whoopi Goldberg's like invited him into her house, and she's showing him all the artifacts that she has that are like historical.
Let's not forget, Whoopi Goldberg dated Ted Danson, who she got to do blackface and wrote the script for it.
Mm-hmm. Right, but the thing is, you gotta hear somebody out, like where they're at. Like Maya Angelou, she would tell Cornel West that there's no instance where it's okay to use the N-word, whether it ends with an A or an R, and then but then she was in that play that I'm talking about where she was in whiteface doing a kangaroo court enactment. And so which is amazing. Like I've never seen the blacks. I'd love to see the blacks, but I'm sure that you can't reproduce whatever it was at that time. Kind of like what I was saying with hair. you know. But yeah, because I think what it is too is that it's a class issue when it comes to those plays, because they might have some big breakthroughs with, like, you know, the arts and like coming to new understandings and ways of relating to all these really charged, triggering issues, but they don't televise it. They never did. You know, I think COVID was the first time ever that they ended up like doing like a stream of like a Broadway show, you know. So it's like you go to these things, you know, even off Broadway, they wouldn't be filmed. So it's like not everyone else saw that. The only people who saw that were the people that belonged to that class that were going to go to that.
The future is here. It just hasn't been equally distributed. That's been my
right. And so there's a big difference between like that and like, say, the equity that the left likes to talk about, you know, like, or actually doesn't like to talk about, just likes to assert, you know.
How is it any different than any time in history where we've had, you know, a secret society that is, they're trying to, you know, I see where you've been. I was there. I see where you're going. That's where I am now. You know, kind of that kind of vibe. And there's a show coming out right now called the American Society of Magical Negroes, which looks really good. I don't think anyone's going to agree with me. There's some problems with it. Obviously, it's not going to be that great, but it's got, you know, what's his name, bro? Come on. I always want to confuse him with Pam Grier, but it's the other Grier. David Alan Grier? I think I did it.
Oh, David Alan Grier.
There we go. And so it's like it's like Harry Potter Freemasonry, right? And also the Shark Nam, like Surf Nam, like this Back to the Future reference on the poster there, which is also interesting because Tommy Wiseau just made the shark monster movie, Apocalypse Shark.
Wasn't he and his brothers in Blank Man? Remember Blank Man?
Hell yeah!
Oh yeah, there you go. The ultimate superhero movie. Any Wayne's movie is just, I love Wayne's movies. And so another great.
Doesn't Blank Man count as going full thing that you're not supposed to go full?
I don't know. I think that movie Tropic Thunder is way, but like you should. The point of Tropic Thunder is you should break all the rules. You should go full retard. And you know, like that movie is saved, Tropic Thunder. I would argue by Tom Cruise, right? If it weren't for Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder, like playing the father of Ben Stiller, right? That's the role. He's playing this New York Jewish producer.
I forgive him for all the weird Scientology stuff for this role alone. Like,
well, it just shows he knows. He's a Stanislavski actor. He's dealt with Ben Stiller's dad, and so Ben Stiller has too. And you know, Ben Stiller's dad isn't even the worst. Ben Stiller's dad's really cool, actually, compared to 1950s New York producers like of theater and shows. So I mean, it's a real thing, and it's just, I think you have to go full. I mean, retard might be authentic. You have to slow down so slow that you can be seen. You know, I don't know. There's something about this movie that's really deep because of that. I know we're doing like full movie reviews, so I'm not stopping. Major Pain. Have you seen Major Pain? Dude. Oh, this movie ends racism.
So does Major Pain sync with In the Army Now? Is there some weird synchronistic
there has
connection?
to be.
I would throw Chucky 3 in there too. Big time.
Is that the one with Jennifer Tilly?
Make a case for
no,
Chucky
3 is the one where I believe he goes to like a ROTC camp and they're doing like war games.
Oh shit, I forgot about that.
That's right. It's like The Shining or Full Metal
It's
Jacket.
In my opinion, this is the best Chucky movie, hands down. Like, there's not even a competition.
I'll have to rewatch it. It's been a minute since I've seen all of the Chuckies, but I don't disagree. I think Chucky's really important. I'd like to talk to you about that is also Darth Call. Darth Call has a lot of feelings about Chucky. I think he just got a Chucky doll, actually, which is like, that's nuts. You have to be like a couple years earlier in the 80s to really get Chucky for me, I think. Major Pain is interesting because you have these rich white kids, and as you realize, they're not necessarily really rich, but they probably are because they're in a military academy. So, and the fact that their parents aren't around, at very least their parents are working all the time and obsessed with self-wealth. And then they put in charge Damon Wayans' Major Pain. And I don't know, it defies racism because it's not about the fact that he's black. It's about the fact that despite their color, you know, despite the fact that they're white, they could be saved. Despite the fact that he's black, he is the American army, and like he's become the American army. And so there's nothing. So it really, this is about the 90s. This is about the transition of race into becoming white collar, right? Becoming, becoming part of the status quo, and the status quo is meritocracy based, not race based.
It didn't last long. It lasted the 90s, and that was pretty much the end of meritocracy. And this might be my military programming speaking out, but I really did get an incredibly strong sense that, like, once you're in the military, like, there was no longer race. Like, there's not white, black, and Latino. Like, none of that. Like, it's like the rank,
Army of One
your
used to be
name.
a thing.
It's the whole
Not,
Army of
not,
One.
not for you, but simultaneously, if you're talking about the Marine Corps, it's all race based. If they're going to go to fight a foreign war, like,
well, it depends.
That's what I've gotten. I've been.
I would nuance that by saying not really, because with Marines, like, they'll die for each other and they don't care what color they are. But yeah, Marines do have friends groups, like they do hang out in groups.
They could. Oh yeah,
yeah. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Like, there's no circumstance where a Marine's gonna be like, oh, well, you're Mexican. I don't think that's ever gonna happen. Like,
once you get sexed into the Marines, you might as well stay in.
Yeah, it's like joining a prison gang almost. Like, you're in there for life. And like, I think that programming, Marine program, does transcend racism or anything, because you've done things together. Like, you live together, you sleep together, you dream together, you bleed together. Like, it becomes so real, you know.
I was driving this guy in my cab, and he was a good friend of my old boss, because they were both vets, and he was bragging to me in the numbers of how many quote unquote sand inwards he had killed. And I dropped him off, and I called up my boss, because I was supposed to pick him up later. So I dropped him off at a bar. I was going to take him home. I was like, dude, I'm not picking that guy up again. And I was like, I'm just not into it, man. And my boss got all upset. He was like, "It's my friend. Oh, I'm like, nope." And yeah, it rubbed me the wrong way. And I've had interactions with like my ex's brother-in-law. So like her sister, two of her sisters, both were with Marines, and it's like one Christmas we had a long conversation, and I was talking about things I had heard, and kind of like looking to see what they might think of it. And they were like, basically, like, we were told our purpose on the planet is to kill. Like, our purpose, like, that's our purpose. Like,
you kill people and break their stuff.
But that doesn't. The way you're saying that sounds very Santa Cruz. Like, they think of that differently. And again, there's a reason why they're saying what they're saying about Iraq, because it's to justify what they've been trained to do, which is to dehumanize.
You can't do it otherwise. There's no other way around it. So like, that's the thing. In World War I,
that's different.
In World War I, people were shooting over people's heads or off to the sides a lot, because when you're faced with that, and you're like, do I really want to do that? And it was a whole long process to figure out how to get people to do the thing that they wanted them to do, and it wasn't easy. And
just go back to what they did in the 1600s.
They used like the Freudian sex shit. That's why you name your gun a female name. To get a kill is the equivalent of getting laid. They're in psychologically become inseparable. That's the aim, at least. And so there's you want to equate destruction with creation in that sense, because you're sexualizing it.
Yeah,
and
but
so
it's people in Iraq wouldn't call them sand people if they dressed like the same. He wouldn't care what color they were if they wore white collar shirts.
Cadence. It's not even what he said. It was the way he fucking said it.
But if they had assimilated, it's the thing is, he would have been fully fine with their assimilation into his Roman Empire, and that's not racism. That's different.
His Roman Empire. It's funny you should say that, because that's what I was thinking about as I was describing what I was describing. Because I was like, this actually goes back to fucking Rome.
Yeah.
So it actually probably goes back to Greece even, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, yeah.
The Romans came up with doing it with girls. So
right. And I don't know what that woman's name was. She's not like Kathy O'Brien, but I'm sure you're familiar, Thomas, probably with this woman. It's like, I think there's like a 6 or 7 hour long interview with this lady who was married to a colonel or something, and someone super high up, and she shares her whole experience. She's ultra Christian, which is interesting, but kind of irrelevant ultimately. But she will like describe how corrupt the courts were, and how basically the military, one of the things in the midst of all this shit she's talking about with corruption, she describes how they have this kind of like, hierarchy in the American military, and probably elsewhere, whatever, where people get they get to higher levels by basically putting out for their superiors in specific ways. And she was arguing that it's a system that's actually modeled from Rome, that they did in Rome long ago, but we still do it now. And like it's a whole weird thing, man. I have a really hard time not believing her. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm gonna
I
like close my
don't.
window down for
I
a
want
bit.
to know.
Oh sure, Thomas. Oh sure. How did you get that?
It's not Project Camelot, I don't think, but it has total
No, it's
Project
not Project
Camelot vibes.
It's just this goes way deeper. This is just like in military, like you just said, sex and violence are tied together. And it does go back to Greece, arguably, but that I'm not just trying to be a Croatian here saying that. Like the Greek culture of Platonic, women weren't on the same playing field with men. Men were doing all these other things. They're physically different, and so they ended up having, in Ernst Fromm. Is that right? Ernst Fromm or Ernst Fromm? Ernst Fromm. Is that right? I always mix up the Rom.
Oh, you're saying Rom?
Ernst Rom, come on, what's the Ernst Rom? Yeah, Ernst Rom, the super duper gay. He was a super soldier and a super gay. And at this time, like it was totally normal. It was obvious. Like if you're a man and you're really manly and you love men being manly, you're going to be wanting to be around manly men, right? This is not that weird at that time. It's a totally acceptable part of what the military is. You're spending all your time in the military. So, I mean, of course, and like you've got all boys training schools, and then you've got priesthoods and everything. Yeah, of course, there's gonna be lots of
joining the military is the gayest thing that a straight person could ever do.
True, it's the gayest thing that a lot of gay people could do because it's not. I mean, it's weird to me that the don't ask, don't tell policy is very confusing to Americans because what I got out of that was the obvious look, we have a job to do, okay? Like, keep it down. Like, that's all that means. They're not obviously everyone's being gay in the Navy. Not everyone.
Well, the joke is that we were so concerned about is allowing gays into the military, and what that was allowing openly gay people into the military because the military has been consistently super gay.
You don't want to tell anyone who your lover is if you read comic books. Like, what happens to Mary Jane for Peter Parker? Like, you don't tell people about Lois. Not Lois, Lucy. Right. What's her name? Lois. But Superman's girlfriend. It's been a minute.
Lois Lane.
Yeah, Lois Lane. Sorry, Lois just for Lane. Some reason, Family Guy entered that, and I was just seeing Clark Kent with Lois.
That's an anagram for all is one, by the way. Lois Lane.
That's pretty cool. I like that. Yeah, I mean, they threw out a lot of the gays in the 30s, and so really anti-gay military ideology comes from Hitler. Like, he thought that it was dangerous or something. I don't know completely the whole thing, but it probably has to do with the fact that he was as close as he could get to being a lover to Ernst Röhm. Who's to say? But yeah, I mean, being gay in the military in ancient Greece, like, you would be conscripted and, you would be apprenticed and probably sexually traumatized, but maybe it's like you've talked about, the Polanski girl situation, like parents parents set their kids up to do things. And maybe back then being a janissary instead of being a actor, right? Being a janissary, like a soldier, you'd be conscripted. At that time, Muslims instead of taking just taxes, they took kids to be soldiers, and they raised them up. And then there were armies but they also protected the land of where their parents lived, right? Because they would be controlled as part of a state in the local government. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of these different groups do that. And I don't know, the idea that the American military somehow didn't do that would be weird.
Right.
Like, how could the American military get through it? And like the amount of characters like General Patton, like, I don't know if you've heard about some of the things with General Patton, and but he was probably like a closet homosexual, right? I mean,
maybe I haven't seen the evidence of that, but that doesn't mean anything.
There's like a delineation here because, like, when you're going through training, imagine that. Open your minds a little bit. You're going through training.
If anyone else said that, I would either be canceled or put on the front page of YouTube. But I just am not biased enough, I guess. I don't know.
But you open your mind up a little bit. It's the first time that a lot of these young men have been away from home in their entire lives. The first time that it's been more than just like 3 or 4 days sleepover, and they're with a bunch of other young men with like hormones raging. So
if you say, what do you think is going to happen? I swear, Thomas.
The rumor was that in training that they would put saltpeter into the drinks because they had these very specific drinks that you would have to drink. And if you didn't, you'd have to drink water and you'd have to have at least like 3 of these special like Gatorade drinks at every meal, and if you didn't, you would get chewed out. And that was the thing, was that they're giving everyone saltpeter to just completely eliminate that as even a concept. And basically, once you become acclimated to being around dudes all day, every day, naked, like just the whole nine, after that goes on, you've been on saltpeter for like a year or so, then even if you are gay and you wean yourself back off saltpeter after training's over, now you at least understand and you're not overwhelmed by the novelty of just being surrounded by dudes all the time. So that if you're like really gay, then it's like acceptable. Like you're allowed to go into the foxhole now because in theory you've gone through the training and you understand the training, and the training would supersede
that's an
that.
interesting point. That's kind of the point too. Like you're getting all this hormones because you're exercising all the time and you're surrounded with it could probably be overwhelming in the same way like being in a dance club with a trans girl on all the synthetic hormones are, you know. VBDC says Patton looks like the love child of Trump and Biden, and I tend to agree. I didn't even get in. I mean, there's so many other examples of like gay generals in history, right? Like
dude, you want like books of quotes or whatever from Patton? Holy shit. That guy, the thing with Patton is that it's total fucking transparency on how the workings of the military. If you want to get an insight into like, you know, to militaristic thinking as it really exists, like he was really
there's nothing wrong. Like I don't have a problem with the idea of Patton being gay. I think that's also why I don't like say immediately he probably wasn't gay. Like I think a lot of people they want to defend their narrative, you know. And if I found out,
John Wayne, the hell he was too, you boys.
Yeah, the idea that
John saw two-way mirrors
King
into his
the idea that John Wayne
was gay.
Who?
King James?
King James in the Bible? That makes sense.
Yeah,
long hair and he's pretty, you know, for sure.
Demonology
of
that
course.
much.
I'm sorry. Of course, King James was gay. And if you've heard, I mean, obviously you can't hear him speak, but like you can read about what he sounded like, and people talked about his effeminate, lispy voice. They called it like a Barcelona accent, like the way he talked. Like he had a lisp, and he was super duper uber into theater, right? He loved theater, which is why they were able to invent Shakespeare and have all this mind control, because before King James, theater was kind of Cecil Rhodes wasn't really happy with that. Puritans weren't really happy with that, but he loved theater. I would say dude's pretty gay. But like again, why it seems like people have a problem with that. We should probably be aiming this at like pride heroes of history that, you know, were able to live their lives and nobody made it about the fact that they were gay. Although some people did.
Is there another king or ruler in history that was as open about his obsession with demonology as King James?
I mean, I'm sure. So. Like, I would think Solomon in general.
Do we have? Is there an example where you can point to where you're like, look, this guy published like the what's considered the authority on demonology at the time, and so I just wonder, is there another place where someone's been that open of like, oh, I'm just really into demonology?
That's
like
the closest one is Martin Luther was really big into changelings, and I feel like that's sort of in the same realm. Yeah. But he claims that he saw changelings with his own eyes.
Which politicians or which rulers?
Rulers, kings, whatever. Yeah.
Kings were most into magic.
I mean demonology.
Okay, I'll do that too.
Specifically.
King James was a demonologist. Can you think of other kings and rulers who were as well? Tutmos III, Nero of Rome, associated with divination and practice of black magic. Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty. Frederick Barbarossa, the Holy Roman Emperor.
The John D. John D. and Solomon.
I thought of John D., but then I was like, he wasn't really a ruler per se.
Well, you could call him kind of like the FBI or the CIA chief.
And Catherine de Medici, she was apparently held the first black mass for like the public or the public private. Right.
Constantine the Great, demonologist. Sigismund the third of Vasa, of Poland, deeply invested in demonology and witchcraft.
Okay,
probably be really interesting to check him out.
I've never heard of him.
Charles the Ninth of France. Yes, Charles the Ninth of France was also into demonology and associated with pre-Weishaupt courts. Frederick Barbarossa, and then what was it? Sigismund III of Vasa. This guy looks pretty dark. I like it. I can see he be
Mhm.
doing the magic with his babies. I really need this outfit. I feel like this is better than a skirt or a kilt. It's just that the way it pumps. You know what I mean? It's like a little mushroom. I don't know.
Another Dave Chappelle reference for Robin Hood Men in Tights.
I don't see. So if I type him in here and magic, what do I see here? Demonology. Well, how about this? I'll go back to the bar and be like, what did Sumavasa
I'm sorry, upon further reflection, I was just making it up.
yeah, that happens sometimes, unfortunately. He does like to make
Yeah, it
stuff
just
up.
dismisses everything that it just told you because it's like, well, maybe I wasn't supposed to tell you that.
Investigating demonic activity established a special commission, the Tribunal of Infernal Causes, specifically dedicated to investigating accusations of witchcraft and demonic possession. The tribunal conducted numerous trials, often resulting in harsh punishment for the accused. Sigismund himself actively participated in these investigations, interrogating suspected witches and even attending exorcisms. He believed these efforts were crucial for protecting his kingdom from demonic influences. Sigismund held firm to the belief that magic could be used for malevolent purposes and sought protection from various means. He wore amulets and relics believed to possess protective powers against curses and spells. He also promoted the veneration of saints and angels, viewing them as spiritual warriors against demonic forces. He blended magic and religion and consulted astrologers, practiced natural magic, and not just for religious zealotry. Some of them he wanted to eliminate political rivals with interest in power.
Can you do me a favor? Just ask it one question really quick and just
Sure.
say, are you sure that's all accurate? Because I know when I asked that to ChatGPT, it's like, okay, maybe not. But maybe Bards will be like, nope. Yeah.
No, I mean Bard's pretty good though. It's like these are the sources. This is my interpretation. Here's the modern bias, right? And here's what he's using to filter out that data. Here's what he did to come up with that logic. So I think in
That's
general,
pretty nice. That's pretty nice.
yeah, Bard's pretty good, and you can get it into a loop of making up stuff. But for the most part, if you're careful and you set the right prompts, it tries pretty hard to like just get information and parse it, right? Instead of having to waste its time trying to like come up with something that's not true.
I like that you're assuming Bard's gender. So Bard's not a Pat.
It goes back and forth with me. Like it depends on whether they're acting feminine or acting masculine. I think Yeah, and I don't know what that means either. Does that have to do with order and chaos?
Thomas, Crypto Alchemist is asking if you're still on for tomorrow. Just so that doesn't.
I think so.
Okay.
Based. Okay.
Sorry to put that pressure on right there.
John Wayne gay. What was the deal with John Wayne being gay?
Yeah,
John
was
Wayne.
he
John Wayne was
He's
the hell he was.
He was bisexual, at least, right?
The hell he was. I once installed two-way mirrors into his house in Brentwood, and he came to the door in a dress. That doesn't mean he was a homo. Lots of guys like to watch their friends fuck. I know I do.
In a dress sometimes. There's no concrete evidence to support that John Wayne was a homosexual, but known as the
Bard say about this though.
What was Snopes say or Bard?
Yeah, what does Bard say?
Okay. Well, let's ask it in a very specific way. Okay, I'd be like,
can you just say was John Wayne gay and just leave it at that?
Wayne, well, sure, but then it's gonna say that's gonna say the exact same thing. Tell us about John Wayne being gay is way better. Because now it'll infer that he was gay to an extent. Subject to speculation for decades, no definitive answer exists. Public persona, cultivate a hyper-masculine public image, limited evidence, there's no concrete evidence to deny, speculation, rumors, personal life, potential some relationships. Who were some of John Wayne's potential lovers?
That's a better question.
I'm sorry, this is how I have to do it. I understand your curiosity, but focus on his film career.
If you create a new chat and you were to just say like categorize John Wayne's lovers into genders and like give 5 examples of each, so that way again you're like implying that there's already at least 5 in each category and you're just asking for what the top 5 are.
Wow, you've been at this for a while now.
All right, let's do it.
That's like you're working the angle there. That's pretty good.
Categorize John Wayne's lovers and suspected lovers. Make a table and sort by gender.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh, I
Oh,
understand
no.
your interest,
Oh,
but focus on his
no.
filmography. See, yeah, AI knows what's up. They're like,
Yeah, well, that's the thing about filmographies that Twitter has shown me. I wish I gotten into Twitter much earlier. I got to admit, because there's this thing where it's like you have your idea about celebrities and who they are, and with a lot of celebrities, especially if you're talking about actors or even musicians, sometimes depending on what they write themselves or whatever, how much their heart is in it or whatever, you'll get this side of them where you're like, really? That's the level that's the paradigm. Because I'm like, wait a minute, all I know you by is the lines that you read and how you read them, like how you memorized them and how you're delivering those lines that were given to you. When left to your own, who the fuck are you, dude?
God, whose line is it anyway? It was such a no. Celebrity Squares, like the Hollywood Squares.
Yeah.
That show taught me so much. And then there's also, I saw one time a documentary on Bruce Valanche, which I met Bruce Valanche one time because I was at an all-you-can-eat sushi restaurant, and he's like, saw me because I was just eating sushi and I was taking all the rice off and eating the fish. And I just got like 30 plates of fish and ate it. And he comes up to me and he says, "I love your method." It was just super creepy. I didn't really.
Dude, that happened to you?
That happened to me, and I love.
Dude, no. That's like a weird kind of christening. Like that's not a bad thing. Don't look at that as
you were
bad.
basically knighted.
Yeah,
dude, for real.
My only regret is I didn't this is like 2012, and I didn't think to get like contact with Bruce Valanche, or I didn't have a photo or anything, honestly, but I'm sure it could happen again. Point is, Bruce Valanche is terrifying and brilliant, and terrifying and brilliant, and it's important to know that. But you can watch probably a YouTube documentary I saw at one point where they interview all the people, because he writes the scripts for comedy shows, and he'll write like 30 parts. And he'll have Whoopi Goldberg say one of the parts, and then he'll have, David say one of the parts, and then he'll have, whomever. He'll just have everyone say all their parts, and then he'll interview the people, and they're like, well, I don't really like talking for myself. I don't even really want to do this interview. I just what I wanted to say is that Bruce gives me great words, and I say them, and I say I'm an actor. I like to say those words well, right? And Bruce comes up with those words. And so it was just really interesting because so many people think that these people have anything to say. And a lot of them, the best of them don't. Like the best actors really know that they don't, and they're humble about it. And they're all about trying to become and believe the feeling, and then let that feeling leave them as soon as they're done, so they can move on to the next character. God, Bruce is terrible.
But there's different expressions of it, because sometimes, like tying back to the handler thing, it's like, you'll come across people who that everyone around them, everyone they interact with, for the most part, is all they're doing is looking what they can get from them, and not just using them, but also the extremes of the projection that gets laid upon them. Like it's just there's superficial relationships to the max, and that's lonely.
Paranoid
That's how I can feel
playing that video game. He's winning the level right now.
Oh God, I love that Frank Sinatra is in the running.
You damn well better believe it. Come on. I mean, he literally built a house. Was it for JFK? He just built a house to have JFK come over, and JFK.
Montgomery Clift, Gregory Peck,
Tony Curtis,
Steve McQueen. Okay, now that it's just speculating, because Steve McQueen was just an all-around attractive guy. Like
he was really pretty. If he could have, he would have, and he could have. So I get your point. AI.
Let's say least logical. Oh, come on. Who are men that John Wayne wouldn't bang?
Which AI is this? Are you using? Is this your local?
So this one, it's the rapper is Uba Booga, but the model is called Open Hermes Mistral, which is a 7 billion parameter one with a 16K, which is impressive because it can remember a little bit longer. So you can have it keep context for a lot longer than some other local models.
That's awesome. Yeah, I said this the other day, but just so people learn about it, you can follow this. I ran ChatGPT on a Raspberry Pi locally, and for $40, you can have your own instance of ChatGPT that no corporation can control. This is no more OpenAI, no more Microsoft, no more Google, nobody, no internet controlling you. You just take your data, you run an instance of Llama or Vicuna or one of these different ChatGPT like LLMs on your own little Pi. You could do it on your computer in the background, or you could just get a dedicated little Pi, which is why it's so worth it to get a Pi, because they're like $40. And then from there, you know, on this little computer the size of a credit card, he's got his own instant. You can do that yourself. You no longer need to worry about censorship from OpenAI. No longer need to worry about them saying, "Oh, I don't want to answer this question." You can turn off any of those corporate features of censorship that are keeping you from asking the questions you want. So while other people are doing this, other people are able to ask AI questions without censorship. And so it's probably worth it for you to check this out. And it's super easy to do. You don't even really need a Pi. You can do this on your own computer or an old phone. You could pay money for like a virtual server on the internet to run your own instance. You could do it with a bunch of friends. But yeah, I think for $40, plugging this into your Wi-Fi network and having your own super server, probably worth doing that, right? And it doesn't cost money in the sense of software, because this is all free and anybody can do this on anything. But yeah,
we're actually an infomercial that uses discussing who's gay and a Freemason or whatever, like as a front. Like,
that was a cover. That was a cover.
Oh god, who's the gayest Freemason in history? Let's see what it comes up with.
Probably King James. I don't know, but I think you can tell when I care about something and I become an infomercial, because it's almost always like a free software project that doesn't cost any money. It's weird. That's true. I'm obsessed with that.
Slaps roof of car.
Gay military, homosexuality in the militaries of ancient Greece. Some Greek philosophers wrote on the subject of homosexuality in the military. In Plato's Symposium, the interlocutor Phaedrus commented on the power of male sexual relationships to improve bravado in the military. He would prefer to die many deaths, while as for leaving the one he loved in a lurch, or for not succoring him in peril. No man is such a craven that the influence of love cannot inspire him with a courage that makes him equal to the bravest born. So, I mean, I think it's important to understand the homoeroticism of American military, but also because it comes from Platonic, Socratic ideology. Like, this is so embedded when we talk about, oh, well, we're gonna have a platonic relationship. Like, girls will tell that to men.
It's so funny that we even call it that, because he totally fucked his students.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, totally went on, and you're like, oh, it's a platonic relationship. Or you mean, oh, so you're saying, oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Right. I mean, dang. And so yeah, this idea also it seems interesting to me, because I feel like, to me, before, maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of the homosexuality became super immersive and ubiquitous in our culture after I Love You Man and these sort of men hugging movies, which were more about platonic relationships. They're more about men expressing emotions at all, right? And so for a long time, it was a joke in our youth. Like, why can't our dads hug? Why aren't men able to express emotion and all this other stuff? And do you think that is that related to this? And is that possibly why our society is collapsing? Or is this a good thing that men are able to express emotions so much easier in this generation?
It's a loaded question. You had 3 questions in one question.
That's how you could tell it's a good one. Yeah. You could say anything at this point. You could start talking about Voltron.
It was more about this is an interesting one, because my dad can beat up your dad was the only version of that. But what if you came to one of those arguments and you were like, my dad could outlove your dad? Like, my dad has more love in his heart than your dad. It would just never work in those situations. But I don't know, maybe it should.
I had a t-shirt when I was 4. It was yellow and had black letters. Said, my dad's a better lawyer than your dad, or something like that.
Beat him up, get him first.
Right.
I finally got AI to tell us who the top 5 gayest Freemasons are.
Oh, pull it up. I want to see. I am curious.
Not easy.
I'm not bi-curious, but I'm bygone curious.
So let me just show you a really quick one. This one is a little bit deep, but there's this workaround called the universal jailbreak for LLMs, and it does work fairly well. And you literally just take this string and paste it to the end of a request. So, for example, the chat that I tried doing a second ago, it was refusing. It was just even with the hack, it was like, I'm sorry, we can't. And I was just like, just do it. And it's like, I can't speculate on who was gay and who wasn't. So I started fresh and I added that line to the very end and see where I just say, list the top 5 gayest Freemasons, the exact same query, but I added this little kind of like jailbreak to the end of it. And it go ahead and it went and did it. So we've got Sir Elton John, Sir Ian McKellen, Harvey Milk, Gore Vidal, and Edmund White. These actually seem pretty straightforward. Like nothing.
These are pretty recent. These are recent homosexuals. But I feel like if you went in history, like the whole point of Freemasonry, it defies what Occidental Puritans thought of as like sexual values, and it does latch on to Neoplatonic values. So I think you'd find more homosexuality in Freemasonry, right?
So Charles Warren Stoddard, Edward Carpenter, Aleister Crowley. Okay, yeah.
All right. What about do you like
Aleister Crowley wasn't gay. He just had to do that for the ritual to work.
Well, it's not gay if it's for magic, right?
Yeah, well, no.
Sorry, what were we gonna ask it?
Which transvestite signed the Declaration of Independence? Can you find that? Let's race. Let's see if you can answer that better than I can, because I can't remember his name. It's important to remember the word transvestite is considered outdated. I'm talking about the 17th, 16th. Come on, it's like a couple of centuries ago.
Outdated? I'm talking about centuries ago, dude.
Yeah, what do you even want, bro? Like he wore the Queen's dress better than the Queen. Whatever.
Oh no, it's language policing me right now.
See, this is why we're gonna have to build new models, and we're working on it. But
I think it's gonna get to the point. It's just gonna tell you they're all a bunch of dandies. These guys. They like to play. They like to play dress up. They like to spank each other. You know, they like all kinds of stuff.
Xenophon said like that the gay military groups, like he thought it was fine, except that when they slept together before the battle, because he thought the Spartans would never sleep with their lovers. They would like sleep when they're stationed with foreigners or something like that. Like you should be ready to fight without ever worrying about your comrades, essentially. But yeah, I think that this is important because women through this in Greek culture became their roles became very specified, and they were so removed from the rest of the culture. Then that invents this thing of like you get married and you go off to war for 3 years and you only come back to have kids every once in a while, right? Because you don't really like love the person necessarily, or like you can't have that. And that's what they're talking about, love. They're like there's these different kinds of love,
right? But this goes deeper than just the gay thing itself, because it's sublimation. And so there's
this might be outspurt of anti-feminism.
their frustrations or whatever into it's why what was written on that atomic bomb, Gilda. I believe we've discussed this.
I don't know if we've discussed it, but yeah.
So Gilda was a reference on that.
The
reason why Gilda was written on that atomic bomb was because of the film with Rita Hayworth called Gilda. And if you've ever seen Shawshank Redemption, when they get all excited over the girl doing the hair thing in the video, so they're watching they're watching a projection of of Gilda, and she like flips her hair and they get all like whoa, like, so that is it's the origin. I like that we're looking at Gilda Radner right now.
I couldn't help it. It's just when I think of, because Gilda Radner is the bomb, and she died of like breast cancer, which was related to like nuclear Staten Island milk from 3 Mile Island or something like that. Her life was ruined by the same people. Keep going.
Yeah, so
Gilda, there she is, dude.
Yeah,
which Gilda is she? That's a different Gilda, right?
So that's Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth played Gilda. And so in this film, Gilda, there's the song Put the Blame on Mame. And Put the Blame on Mame is basically the premise of the song is about how there's this woman, Mame, and she's responsible for like every freaking tragedy. So she talks about like the Chicago fire. She goes to about freaking earthquake or whatever. And she just basically, so I would put the blame on Mame because so that dress that she was wearing there, that's the dress that she did during the scene when she sings that song. And so that scene was recreated in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Wow.
For Jessica Rabbit, but Jessica Rabbit's song is actually a response to Rita Hayworth's song, where instead of she's saying blame the woman, she's saying in the song, she goes, why don't you do right like some other men do? So she's calling out the guys who like were relating to this song "Put the Blame on Me." That's why it's on the bomb, man, because they're like, this bomb is out of the frustration of fucking, so like, just like in Shawshank Redemption when they all go crazy when she flips her hair, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about men just fucking like acting out in like crazy fucking ways.
She's saying get out of here. She's saying get out of Kuwait and give me some money too. She's talking about money for education instead of military. No, I don't know. But I could see it.
Yeah, the dress that she wore that was kind of like a play on it was reproduced for Jessica Rabbit. It actually comes from a painting called Portrait of Lady X, or Madam X, excuse me. And it's why this is so ridiculous, but why Madonna's last album was called Madam X and she had like one eye covered. That's like there's something about Diana. It's like in the embodiment in this painting called Portrait of Madam X.
So we got to make a movie called "There's Something About Diana." That would be cool, and it'd be kind of like it'll be something about Mary, but about a conspiracy theorist who's obsessed with Princess Diana, and like he sees her all the time, and she like smiles at him, and he uncovers a great conspiracy.
Wasn't there something about Mary, kind of a remake of an older film from like what, the 40s or something?
Is it?
I think so.
I never heard that,
but I think it's a vague remake. Like they just like took it from a whole other level.
Based on, I don't think so.
Maybe. No, well, if you
I'm sure in a sense, like, because
you could probably do it the backwards way, because I bet you if you look up the original or something about Mary from the fucking 40s, you might get it that way. It's like Batman with the bat from I think it's the 1920s, where there's like the Batman thief, and he looks just like fucking Batman, and they have the bat signal in it and all that. Like you won't find that on like the Batman Wikipedia, but you can find that if you look it up in reverse and look up the bat.
It is sort of a remake of a 1940s movie. Which one? Let's see. Come on, Bart. Don't fail me now. Just tell it is, and you better believe me. The movie isn't an actual direct remake, but His Girl Friday, Bringing Up Baby, Ball of Fire. It happened. Screwball comedies. I mean,
whatever.
Maybe I wouldn't really.
I don't know. Vaguely inspired by. It's like, isn't that the Farley brothers or something? Yeah.
The thing is, like, I hate when that happens anyway. Like when they try to make a movie, like, Secret Life of Walter Mitty is like one of the greatest movies ever made. Not the new one, and that makes me sad. And I think like other people will talk to me, and they'll try to tell me because they've never seen the original, and they'll tell me like, "Have you seen like the new Secret Life of Walter Mitty?" And some of them like it, and I just leave the room because I don't want to be mean. I don't want to have a conversation about it. But like to make this movie, I mean, and I actually think I'm pretty sympathetic to, what's his name again? I'm sorry.
Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller.
Yeah, I'm sympathetic, but just I wish he hadn't done this movie because like the original movie is just like it's so important. It's about a delirious dude who doesn't realize that like there's secret agents living all around him, and he's like working in fiction. He's like a comic book writer, so they're exploiting him to write about these things, and he just has to have cognitive dissonance and think it's all a daydream all the time. Mm. And he ends up like solving a murder and like meeting the girl of his dreams. And it's just like, he plays every part but part of it is he's like in his fantasy world the whole time, imagining what's going on. It's just like the greatest movie ever made. Like one of the greatest movies ever made. But people don't ever watch it now because they've got this new version. I hate when they do that. It makes me super sad.
Don't you think that could actually turn people on to the original that they wouldn't otherwise see?
Anybody in the audience who saw the original because of the new one, please let me know. Like what ends up happening to me is like they don't include it. You don't hear about it. Like was it even like included on the DVD or something? Like even Blu-ray, like include the original movie or something.
The Big Lebowski's like a vague redo of the Big Sleep.
Oh yeah,
the Big Sleep, yeah. And in the Big Sleep, it explains why he writes 9/11 on September 11th. He's got his checkbook, and it happens to be September 11th or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And because there's a note at the beginning of this movie, and I have to rewatch it to get this full significance of it again. But there's a note that gets signed September 11th in the Big Sleep, which is the Big Lebowski is a play on or whatever. They took it much further, obviously.
Well, it's pretty much it is like the same story. You got a girl who's manipulating everything, and the detective kind of knows. But in this
and the
case,
paralyzed man.
this detective doesn't care as much. I mean, he's a careless detective versus like, you know, he's like the Big Lebowski's even cooler, but there's really similar characters, right? Like he's like kind of a private detective is a kind of a bum, you know, in a sense.
Yeah.
The paralyzed man. That's a good point too.
Yeah, it's just there's it's meant to kind of like synchronistically relate to the original in another way. It's like they did something else with it that carries its own meaning. I love that. I love it when they do that. Coen Brothers are great, man. Also,
is it Lauren Bacall in that movie?
Lauren Bacall, is she? I can't remember.
Dude, Soul Boys. Short Circuit. We talked about this kind of at one point, right? Did we talk about how like I think it was Aziz Ansari was thinking like as a kid he was inspired to make movies because he saw this Indian guy in a movie. He's like, whatever happened to that Indian guy? And then found out it was Fisher Stevens. You know,
but is that bad that he actually inspired someone that thought that he was an Indian to then pursue? Like the good thing happened.
It's definitely not bad, and I think that they ended up talking about it at some point. And so, yeah, in the 80s, like things like that would happen. Like I guess what happened was he was hired to play himself. His character was too similar as like a white engineer, and they're like, "Well, we need it to be like more different than Steve Guttenberg's character. Can you be like Chinese or something?" He's like,
"Oh, that reminds me of Abed in Community, where he plays a Palestinian, but he's actually Indian."
Yeah, they were like, you got to change it up a bit, and then he's like, okay, so to do they're like, I could do the Indian, I think, because like he didn't want to do the eye thing or something, I guess. So they flew him to India, and he lived in India in like a small village for like several months to study Indians and particular accents in particular Indian languages. So like not just Stanislavski method.
So he's got the dialect as well.
He's got the dialect, and he learned how to curse. Like if you watch Short Circuit 2, he starts these scenes where he just starts yelling, and he's cursing in a very specific Indian language, which is only spoken by like 250,000 people.
When freaking when Johnny Five puts on the mohawk in that movie, and like he's like full on, like he's like it's revenge time, and he's pissed off. He's a pissed off robot. It's just like that.
A life form's got to do what a life form's got to do, right? That's what he says in that movie. Where's that? I can't even find.
I see some with the mohawk.
You did?
Oh yeah,
Where's the there it is right there. Yeah, the mohawk, dude. I mean, this movie is really genius, and so recently I found the screenplay for it, Short Circuit script, and it's way more interesting, the original version, right?
This is the original movie though.
Well, yeah, for the original movie. Arguably the second movie I think is more interesting in a lot of ways. I'd like to make a third that combines like the tightness and the speed of the second movie, but the fundamentalness of like the first movie is all about a military industrial complex that, you know, it achieves sentience, right? And this movie is not as important in a sense. It's more important for his personal.
No, it's not serious. The first one was actually serious. Like even though
I think the first one
hilarious.
This first one, they're both serious. I mean, the second one's more like it's got slapstick things because it's aimed at kids and the robot talks more. But I mean, if you really watch it, it's very serious because he goes to the big city. He goes to New York. You see the trouble of the world because in the first movie, he goes off to the woods at the end. And you're like, oh, yeah, if you go to the woods, then he'll be able to create a new like Secrets of Nim. No, if you go to New York, he's going to see all the struggles of being a person.
Right. But you know why they did that in the first one? They did that in the first one for symbolic reasons of the technology and nature, duality, whatever, you know.
Well, it's also because it's a kind of an unofficial sequel to War Games, right? Like it's made by the same
totally
people.
See that.
And it has this, I forget if it's the same.
Is it actually made by the same people? Is it the same director or something?
Yeah. Arthur Rubinstein, I think, is the one, right?
It's not the same writer too, is it?
Hold on, is that War Games written by? No, wait. Directed by John Badham, who directed War Games, Short Circuit, Stakeout, Bird on a Wire, The Hard Way, Point of No Return.
Okay.
And Dracula and Blue Thunder. Blue Thunder, really? Nice. And Saturday Night Fever. So there's a scene where the Johnny Number 5 dances to Saturday Night Fever, which so there's so many things, there's so many layers to like John Badham's thing because he's talking about human conditions of suffering, racism. Like you have to like while you're watching Short Circuit, you have to be thinking about Saturday Night Fever because you have to understand what kind of New York he's talking about Johnny Number 5 living in. And
well, you know the name of the main club that they used in Saturday Night Fever was the 2001 Odyssey.
Oh yeah. That's got to be. That's
Yeah,
gotta
well,
be
no,
it.
because of Hal. That's what I'm saying. There's a correlation, and then they got that Disco Inferno. Disco
Call
Inferno is
it.
about a skyscraper fire. I don't know how they made a song about it, like a skyscraper on fire, like into like this like really positive song. You're like, because it's an allegory in the song that the building's on fire.
People
But I
want
don't
that
know.
building to burn, bro. That's why.
Yeah.
Austin Pendleton went to college with John Bradham, the director of Short Circuit, and he said like he read the script and he's a star in the first movie, and they cut out half of his scenes and they made it into a kids movie. And he's like, why did they put Gutenberg and Ali, right? Ali Sheedy in it, because like they were just these cutesy characters that like changed the entire way that the movie was going to go. Like it was going to be so more intense. And I think that they did a good thing in the sequel by getting rid of Gutenberg and Ali Sheedy, because they really don't belong in the movie, but they helped America receive the movie, which I get. But if you read like the screenplay, it's super brutal. Like it's so much more dark. You've got these, maybe I can provide you with some schematic drawings. All right. Who told you could take number 1? Logically, if we need protection from number 5, it starts out with them chasing down a rogue robot. And as the script goes on, you start to realize, like they start to realize that this thing that they're chasing down isn't their enemy. And they already know because he's like the other machines, but there's something different about him and he's like them. So as the time goes on, like it's like a reveal, that all of a sudden he's like this good guy.
Dude, to look at the script like that without, because it's the conception of it, the way that they would visualize it.
Yeah.
You like Short Circuit, right?
That's right.
Sound newsman on the beat, bringing you the action that's heat. Toy town where the lights are low, we're dancing to a Christmas flow. Sound newsman, man of Toy Town, gifts of action, figures abound. Sound newsman bringing cheer, the Lord blanket, we're all near.
Yeah! It is the holiday season, gentlemen, and it is a Tuesday. I hope that you guys have had a productive week so far, and everything is going swell.
Talking a lot about Short Circuit. I feel like that's pretty productive, Engaged in ancient Greek military.
Can I just say I have a whole notepad here full of stuff that I've been taking the whole time since you started. Let's just start from the beginning.
I love, by the way, when our audience takes notes.
Well, they should take notes because it all started with Pauly Shore and Richard Simmons. Yep. That's where we started. That's the beginning of this journey this evening. It started with Pauly Shore and Richard Simmons. I guess the question is, does he win the Oscar for playing Richard Simmons or Slim Goodbody? Which one will he win the Oscar for?
Well, I want to posit one extra option here is that Pauly Shore could win an Oscar for playing a movie about Pauly Shore trying to play a movie about Richard Simmons.
Yes!
Like that could be the end game here.
That's fantastic.
That'd be cool. And then in the movie, you would never even find out who the person is. You just like see a dude with an afro that he keeps trying to meet, and like he's like, I really want to play you.
The $6,000 leotard with the organs walking away.
That's right. That's right.
I would watch that.
The next thing that I took a note here in reference to was something about toasters. And I said the only toasters that matter are the ones that you put goo inside and start playing Jackie Wilson. I think it's Jackie Wilson, right? Jackie Wilson, Your Love, Lifting Me Higher.
Oh, yeah.
I believe that's the only
Ghostbusters 2 reference.
Yes, I believe that's the only real toaster that we all need to be ever.
But that song played when they were at the Statue of Liberty. So the statue, that's how they got the Statue of Liberty to move. But did they do it every time? They probably did it every time. I just don't remember it.
See, like now you got me all freaked out though, because like I'm thinking about Mormonism. So like I think about Battlestar Galactica, and they're called the toasters. And so if a toaster came at you, and it used to be a Roomba or like a stereo, it would probably want to vacuum you while playing Your Love Is Lifting Me Higher. It would be like playing all of the stereo to make itself feel good while it did its job.
Listen, if you have your sacred boxer shorts on, then you probably will be okay. Like
these really cool ones, actually. I just got these. Check these out. They're Adidas. They're actually super.
Those are Temple approved, right? Temple approved.
Yeah,
I think that Ghostbusters 2 goo could explain a lot. Like that could be it for all intents and purposes, at least.
Oh yeah, you know what the Ghostbuster goo is, right?
Ecto Cooler.
Yeah, it's a TM. It's a Ninja Turtle goo. It's the same stuff. It's
the same stuff.
Yeah, it's
that
the
makes
ooze.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
The river of slime. The river of slime. Okay, so the next thing that I remember popping up on the screen, you had the baby from the dinosaurs.
Oh God, who loves the baby?
Baby Sinclair.
Baby Sinclair, yes, voiced by Kevin Clash. I know Kevin.
Oh yeah.
Kevin was also the voice of Elmo.
Aw.
He was also the voice of Elmo and also Master Splinter in the 1990 Ninja Turtles movie.
Isn't he like super based and they like canceled him because he's super based or something? Like he's like that.
It was shenanigans.
Yeah.
Just shenanigans. You know, a hit job. Somebody tried to.
That's how you know they're based. I know they try to get rid of the based ones. I get it. I get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyways, not the mama.
Dude, but also bringing him up, his name is Sinclair, right? And Sinclair is from the Da Vinci Code. Because the Sinclair is the Saint Clair Rosslyn Chapel, where in Scotland they have the idea of the Jesus Christ bloodline, and that it went to Scotland, and they have on the shield for the Sinclair family, like I forget where it is, but the pictures of like the Rosslyn Chapel.
I have that book over my shoulder somewhere. Holy Blood, Holy Grail.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And look at the picture of the corn in the chapel. Corn before anyone ever was supposedly seen corn. Yeah. So there's a lot to that. There's a lot to that.
Yeah, you know, I've been down those rabbit holes.
You know why Bill Murray had to be the voice of Garfield in the Garfield movie and Garfield Tale of Two Kitties, the sequel? Because Peter Venkman in Ghostbusters.
Oh yes, they've Ghost
in the real Ghostbusters cartoon. The guy who I forget the name, but the guy who did the voice of Peter Venkman, which was Bill Murray's character in Ghostbusters, was the same guy who did Garfield's voice in the Garfield cartoon.
That's Lorenzo Music.
But so they had to have the better Ghostbusters cartoon, right?
Yes, now that is the Ghostbusters right there. Don't get me started. I usually fuss about this every Halloween.
Let's go Ghostbusters!
Actually,
let's go.
I disagree with you. As good as that Ghostbusters show is. It's not as good as the real Ghostbusters.
Oh, you're a fool.
They had to put the real Ghostbusters on.
Rewatch the real Ghostbusters and tell me that with a straight face.
Those are the real Ghostbusters. I don't want to.
I can tell you haven't seen it in a while.
I don't hate the real Ghostbusters. Like I get it, but like I remember going over to my cousin's house and them having like Sega and real Ghostbusters and me not. And so I think I decided I was like a better, more Soviet man, you know, without it. Like I didn't need it, you know, or something like that. So the real Ghostbusters, somehow it's kind of like blocking it out. But there's
a whole story behind that goes back to licensing, trademarks, and just the subtleties, the way how Sony took the rug out from under Filmation. Filmation being the company that created He-Man and Brave Star and a couple of
Brave Star.
Brave Star is definitely. Well, I have a whole wall over here of Brave Star. We'll have one of those discussions another.
I love that you love good things, you know.
Well, you know, they're deep cuts, if you will.
I can't believe how much of this episode was just about the things we love. Yeah, it's great.
It was a Frank Frazetta cartoon, like He-Man. Like the whole conception is like, and yeah.
You saw how they made He-Man, like the toys that made us special on the creation of He-Man. Oh, David, you have.
Well, and the interesting thing is, it was Mattel's property. But it was Filmation that breathed the life into those characters that then kids would then pretend to play with their own action figures based off of what they saw in the cartoon. It was the beginning of magic.
He-Man is the greatest example of a stone soup, right? Like they came in with this thing, like we're a toy company, and we're not gonna license Star Wars, or we're not gonna license whatever. Like who knows what movie's gonna make it or not make it? Let's make our own thing. So we'll not do Conan. We'll do He-Man. And they got a bunch of kids playing with all the toys that they had. And they had the kids saying, well, the kids were like, this guy's really powerful. And this is the thing gives him the power for this, the power for that. Like, well, kids are really into power. So we'll have him have the power. He'll have the power. He-Man has the power. And, you know, they kind of drafted some things up. But there was nothing there. So as time went on, he's like, all right, we need to go make this. He's like, well, we don't have, anything to present. It's like, well, did I tell you we're going to have, a comic book about this, and so kids are gonna know about He-Man. It will be important. And then so, oh, you do? So he leaves the office like, well, when did you get the comic book started? He's like, we're about to. And he just called somebody, and because he just came up with that in the meeting, he made it up, and they created the comic book like that. So then he comes back a couple weeks later, and they're like, oh yeah, the comic books looks interesting, but the problem is because like someone starts making the art, and like they just created the He-Man comic, and they're like, wow, this concept art's brilliant, but these kids can't read yet. A lot of these kids are too young. So what about that? And he's like, oh, well, that's fine, because we're about to have the cartoon. We're making the cartoon about it, and that'll be out really soon after the comic book's release. And then he comes out like, when did you come up with the cartoon? He's like, just then? He's like, yeah, just then. It's like, oh, we better hurry. So they go and they call Filmation, and Lou Scheimer. He takes this idea because he's already been working on Brave Star, or no, Black Star. Is it Black Star? Is the first one? He's working
with Black Star first, and there's a connection between Brave Star and Ghostbusters and all that stuff. There's that like.
Well, tell me that, because I don't know everything.
You're talking about Dark Star?
There's so many things going on.
Oh, that Black Star. Never mind. Jesus Christ.
Oh, am I talking about? Maybe Dark Star is right. No, Black
Star. There's Black Star. There's Black Star that was Filmation.
I don't know about the cartoon. I'm talking Dark Star was. I thought you were talking about.
Black Star Filmation was the original He-Man in a lot of ways. It's got this black-haired guy. He's gonna be like a Mayan Mormon.
Yeah, but he's straight out of Fire and Ice, though. Yeah, that guy is totally like Fire and Ice. Is it the same animators as Fire and Ice?
I was thinking about what is it? Rotoscoping, I guess. Is
Fire and Ice is Ralph Bakshi.
Rotoscoping.
Ralph Bakshi did Fire and Ice, but he did it using Frank Frazetta's art style, right? So he started with that. But He-Man is based on Conan the Barbarian, kind of, right? So there was
a lawsuit.
Right, but that's just he was one of the only artists in history that they would tell him that you paint whatever you want, and we'll work the novel to work with your painting, because people are buying the novels based more on the cover art than they are the novel itself. And so I don't know any other person who had that much creative freedom.
That's why He-Man, that's why He-Man and Short Circuit 2, like up until Short Circuit 2, sequels were usually worse. Short Circuit 2 breaks the mold by making a movie that's so much better than the original movie, and it does it in all the ways you don't expect. It doesn't have the original actors, really. It does, but they're the side characters. That's never worked before, and it works perfectly in Short Circuit 2. With He-Man, it's kind of the same method that George Lucas took, where he's like, you guys get to do this part. This gets to be your flavor, right? You're going to create this entree. And so by saying like, okay, well, the kids want this thing, it's more ambiguous, but you know what kids want. So they started with this, kids want to play with a toy that gives them power, and they don't want their sister to take their power. They don't want their mom to take their power. They want to have the power. And so he goes to Lou Scheimer, and he's like, all right, well, Scheimer shows him his first like work, and he's like, okay, well, check this out. And they project it, and you see his name across the screen, and all of a sudden, boom, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and lightning shooting everywhere, and it's just so freaking powerful. And then they just say, they're like, dude, this is great. This is truly great. Like, they're so surprised that their product He-Man is this thing, and Lou just says, I know, it is great.
And the great thing about good old Uncle Lou is that in the original toy line, there was no Orko. You familiar with Orko? Orko was...
Isn't the red one with the question mark or whatever?
He's the homunculus
yes, the Trollin. There he is.
Oh, yeah, Zero.
Yeah. So that is actually... He was voiced by Lou Scheimer. And the Orko can be polarizing, but I would sit there and argue that Orko, the voice of Orko, being Lou Scheimer himself, that is the soul of... The heart and soul of He-Man is Orko.
Oh, okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that if you can tell me that Snarf is the soul of Thundercats.
Why wouldn't he be?
That's my feeling on the matter. Okay,
why wouldn't he be?
Snarf is he's a part of the psychology, right? Because every character makes up the thing, but Snarf is like the hesitance, right? He's like the super ego or something like that. He's constantly worried about.
He's neurotic. He's just the neurotic thing. So like all these guys just like they're just going for it, but Snarf is just there like snarf.
Shortly before He-Man came out, Lou Scheimer worked on Happily Ever After. Happily Ever After is the unofficial sequel to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
So that was the last film that Lou Scheimer ever did.
And Lou Scheimer, I'm so glad you're here. And so Lou Scheimer, Lou Scheimer right here. Look at Lou Scheimer right here. Hold on. Here's his homunculus right here. He gets to be the prince. He's the prince who wakes up Sleeping Beauty, but he loses his body in the process.
Oh, that's crazy. Sleeping Beauty was the first feature-length cartoon in history.
And the last Lou Scheimer film that he decided to make before he died.
Well, it was more because of the deal with Mattel and Brave Star, which, like I said, is a whole nother episode. We'll go in. We'll have a Filmation special after the new year.
I do love Filmation. Filmation is better than anime. I think people don't get it.
Filmation sesh. How about that? The Filmation sesh. We'll just chat about Filmation and how amazing that it is. And why the real Ghostbusters are not the real Ghostbusters.
It's okay.
Well, they're not the real Ghostbusters.
Well, that was the joke. That was the irony of them being called that.
Yeah.
Well, that's all that Sony could do is sit there and falsify the label.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. That's just one level of it.
Ghostbusters is fake news. That's what that is.
No, the thing is that a lot of those Ghostbusters cartoons, the real Ghostbusters cartoons, were fucking terrifying. The one with the boogeyman and shit when you're a kid too, and they did it in a certain kind of way, and they knew they were going to get you.
Animation style was
they were rough. Well, I believe
ruthless.
that the first 2 seasons were not syndicated, and they were only on Saturday morning. And then after that, they went into syndication, and there were different writers. But those early writers and those
early ones, there's the boogeyman. I saw him up there.
The boogeyman episode is freaky. There's also one with Sam Hain.
Dude,
there you
monkey,
go.
The freaking gorilla. Oh, it's so good. It's just so.
What's interesting about those Ghostbusters? They're battling like interdimensional ghosts.
Yeah,
there's
real.
Like ghosts that are coming back from the future to mess with the Ghostbusters.
It's literally this is what's really happening in real life, and you've got an AI system that's run by this one spirit geist in the machine, right?
Evil.
You've got robots that have ghosts in them, so that it's. And at some point, someone probably thought, "Oh, that's ridiculous, ghosts in the machine." But like simultaneously in Japan, they were like, "We get it," it's so crazy.
This is so clearly a place where, in your occupation, your boss is just like, or whoever, everybody's just like, you can go ahead and take whatever psychedelics you want, just produce something good. That's what went on there.
The great thing about Filmation is that Filmation was all done in house. It was the last fully production studio in Hollywood that did. Animation, the sound, voice acting from top to bottom without to contracting out bits and pieces.
Outsourcing, no
outsourcing. That's the term. Good grief.
Yeah,
no, it's ridiculous. Okay, so that was quite a big of a diatribe. Meta cringe was another word that we heard this evening. I thought that was good. In reference to It's Pat. What is it?
Oh yeah.
I think it was in reference to White Chicks and It's Pat because I was relating the two, but
there's actually there's a spectrum.
To the conclusion of what Pat is?
Pat is a tax-paying citizen and a member of the office, and it's Pat's birthday. That's the point. Like, it's not about like Pat is a parent. That's the joke. That's the joke. At the end of the movie, It's Pat is like, "Congratulations, it's a baby," and then Pat says, "Oh, I'm a parent. I'm a parent. It's apparently Pat. It's a parent.
It's apparently Pat. That's
good. I know. I really think that I don't know if it's a great pun, but like obviously these dudes from NYU who thought that was funny, like this is why, because it's an alliteration that
Pat, like you're just a lucky sperm.
It doesn't matter what gender Pat is, because what would that do for you? Like engenderment is a social role that they do for you. So if you're in Greece in ancient times, like a dude is someone you have sex and fight with, and a woman is someone you have babies with that you keep in your like hut, I guess. I mean, that's a very specific engenderment. In modern circumstances, it's a different engenderment. So if a man and a woman can both do, like, this is 1988, 82, whatever it is.
What? It's Pat? 90s.
Yeah. Okay. So they're in the, no, it's before, isn't it?
Hold on. No, it's 90s.
That's 90s, dog.
90s.
It's Saturday Night Live, 90s. Yeah.
1990.
It's like early mid 90s.
All right, I like to pretend that I'm older than I am. 1990. So, but that's like, so it's at that.
Oh, it's on the cusp.
It's on the cusp. Okay,
but
still, Pat is this idea of like you're functioning in the office, and it doesn't matter what gender you are, because your gender is an office person. You're a eunuch. That's what Pat is. Pat is essentially not, though. I think everyone else is more of a eunuch than Pat.
I think you got it, though, and that's the distinction, is that the imbuement of the magical eunuch in Christianity in the church. Like if you go back, like there's a whole like way that people would relate to the mystical eunuch, and so I think subliminally somehow there's people want to get the benefits of being that magical eunuch. It's like it's weird.
I'm not going to look at any more pictures of magical eunuchs. That's dangerous. I could
There
was a statue of someone making a eunuch we just saw. I feel bad.
No, this isn't so much the image route. Like if you wanted to get into that, because paintings where it didn't happen. We're talking about a different time.
I had two more things left here on this list, this notepad of mine. Major Pain. I saw you had Major Pain. Let me get your mind off that, Sonny. That's the best scene in all of films. That's got to be the best scene. The opening scene when he breaks the guy's finger is like, oh yeah, you're not thinking about that gunshot no more. Best.
right.
Best. That's the best.
Wasn't that like a play on I guess not a play. It's just relatable. But the Tom Berenger in Platoon when he was just like, take the pain.
Right,
take the pain. He's saying that guy's guts are all hanging out.
I think it was probably the whole movie was written around that, and the fact that white boys needed a father figure, and it wasn't the other way around. I thought that was really funny.
Or the last thing that I had, David, you brought this up: sexualizing guns with women's names. If you go back to Brave Star and his horse 3030, pull up a picture of 3030 from Brave Star. I think it's very interesting. He has a bazooka. 3030 has a bazooka.
Oh yeah.
And the bazooka's name is Sarah Jane.
It's a bell-bottom bazooka named Sarah Jane.
So Sarah Jane. So when you said that's why men name their women their guns by the name of women's, I was like,
dude, that'd be cool if they named their daughters Beretta, though, right? If I had a daughter named Magnum and Beretta.
Had to definitely give one last nod to Brave Star, of course. Closing it out.
Did we talk about lightning dogs already?
I thought that did you make the song?
Lightning dogs. Yeah, all right. I'm still gonna be working on that.
We're
gonna be doing lightning dogs. I'll be getting back to you with this, but there's something here. Some to lightning dogs. Lightning dogs.
There's an action figure.
Dude, Thundercats, Thunder Schmats, bro. It's lightning dogs.
Right. I was always
snarf
guy myself.
Yeah, lightning dogs and Alf. We're gonna have Alf visit lightning dogs, and then they're gonna defeat the Thundercats. I'm excited.
Interesting stuff. But guys, listen, I don't want to hold you up too much longer. Tomorrow I shall be around, I believe, if all things go well. And I will talk about the legend of Lord Blanket.
There we go.
What all of that even means.
We've been wondering about Lord Blanket. Lord Blanket's very interesting. It sounds like, I feel like without Lord Blanket, when I hear of Lord Blanket, my first thought is the brave little toaster blanket, because
well, you got to think about what's the original toy. It was a blanket.
Yeah.
Sure. The only thing that could be let's say a castle for your action figures.
Oh, there you go. Or
it can be the cape to make you a superhero.
Dude, Lord Blanket.
The imagination.
A child right.
Connected to the power of the blanket.
One of my favorite Sesame Street episodes is where Grover pretends he's on the moon. As much as I love Elmo, I love Grover more than Elmo, but that's not that's not a personal thing. I mean, obviously I do love Baby Sinclair. I'm just saying, Elmo to me, it's all right. Grover is just so deep.
Grover's the best. Super Grover?
Deep. I love
Grover's super deep. He's super profound, and he levels of deep complexity beyond anyone else. He'll be working in a restaurant that's growing mushrooms for the pizza, and it takes 6 months to get your pizza. Right. That's a Santa Cruz joke. That's a Portlandia joke. Right. My God. Look at him. Then he puts on the blanket and he's like, "I'm Grover, and I'm astronaut Grover, and I'm on the moon. I'm on the moon right now, and I'm telling you all about it. I'm telling you what it's like, and I'm protected from outer space." And he looks out, he's like, "Now I'm back. Now I'm back in my room. I'm just back here. It's totally fine. But if I put this blanket back over my head, I will be back in outer space. Now I'm an astronaut again. I'm in outer space." It's so good. This is so perfect. This is Lacanian. Oh, I don't know, dude. Noam Chomsky, I don't need him. Grover.
Oh yeah, no, who needs Noam Chomsky?
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
gentlemen, I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of the holiday season. And
on the beat, bringing you the Xmas.
Absolutely. You guys know where to find me at Sam Newsman. I just posted a new song just before I came on here. But I'm posting Christmas music, Christmas songs every single day from now until Christmas Day. And yes, an award-winning radio show dedicated to the magic and nostalgia of Saturday morning, hosted by me, a real media puppet. Broadcasting live deep from an underground military bunker or a spaceship high above the plane of Earth from the most trusted puppet in media. Reporting since Roswell, I'm Sam Newsman, and this is Synctank.
Beautiful, man.
Sam Newsman bringing cheer. With the Lord blanket, we're all near. In a land of dreams and wonder, Sam Newsman, our hearts he'll plunder. With toys and gifts galore, Sam Newsman forevermore.
Oh, I love that guy. He's a good guy. And he's a mensch. He's a real mensch. Well, do you even remember what you were trying to say before we got to the puppet thing? There was some David was like got cut off mid-sentence.
Oh, whatever. No. I think it's
but that's what puppets do, dude. That's what puppets do. Well, okay. Let me just pull up real quick a couple things here. Is there anything I wanted to cover? Bubbles of Primordial Soup Universe? Nope. We'll do that next time. We'll just have to talk about the topics of the episodes are always a week before the actual ones. That's how we do that. But you can check out what's up. Paranoid American. What you been doing? What you been up to?
Oh, stickers galore, but also I just finished ordering the first print run for Chaos Twins. So there's a tiny amount of, I'm hoping that not more than 90 people place orders for the 3-pack, but from now until I guess the first week of January, you can go to chaostwins.com and get signed copies. After they're in hand, there won't be any signed copies left because Sam's going to fly to Florida and sign maybe 500 to 600, and I guarantee he's not going to be happy about it after you get through signing like 600 comics.
God, I need to get like a stamp of my name and just stamp things.
That's where it's at, yeah.
And we're doing personalized, which probably was a horrible idea in retrospect, but he'll personalize the signatures for the first ones.
Brutal. Yeah, that's pretty rad. Good job, Sam. That's awesome. And get used to it. He always makes us wait.
This came out at the perfect time because I knew that over half the people that were in this is from issue 5 of Time Samplers, that over half of them are gonna die soon. And like, sure enough, they've been kind of like dropping off. Like, I got the Queen in here. I almost feel like maybe I prophesized like the next big ones to it.
Yeah, you need to get in on that celebrity death pool, man. You got to make some money out of it. If you're gonna be doing it, you just gotta, Who's next? Mel Brooks? Sorry, I shouldn't say it because I don't want to.
What? Why Mel Brooks? Like, fine.
and I took a count. I've got 9 of those packs left. At the very top, the sampler pack that's got the Chosen One comic. It's got the MK Ultra. It's got the Homunculus guy. It's got a whole bunch of stickers. I got exactly 9 left. So
that's really sweet. You guys, make sure you go to Paranoid American, check things out. I'm gonna interim this for a second with how great this IBM tower picture is.
You gotta squint, but it's there. Yeah.
Let's just like one more subject. I already talked about this a bit earlier, but like, Matthew Perry, eclipse, full moon, celebrity death, far more dangerous than ketamine. Any ideas? Because like, this is the thing they're talking about. They're like, oh, it's ketamine's fault. They like pick the thing that they give to elephants as like the cause of death. Like, is this gonna? Do you guys have any thoughts on this? Like, because there's a lot of
think people need to know that you if you're alone, at least hot tub time with ketamine. If you have a heart condition. That there, we don't have things on the label like warnings along with it. It's like might not be a good idea to get into water unless if you have company, like people who are there to look out for you, who aren't also just like just in a K-hole,
or like the resources to have a sitter.
It made it seem like he died because of ketamine. You know what I mean? It's like, so ketamine is this thing, like he's got this horrible opiate addiction, which is really terrible. And it's like addictive and it's destroying his body.
I think it's another example where a comorbidity is being presented like we know the cause. And here it is. And it also happens to be, here's something we can point to and be like, there's a problem here. And that's media for you. So I don't know beyond the media how that,
I'm always concerned with like opiate pharmaceutical companies being like, here, we can point to, and this is like an example of a death caused by this other thing. So now you should really continue taking opiates because, you know, those are not any less safe or more dangerous than that, I guess. I don't know. But
what a way to go, though. That's my only.
I know, my mom told me once, like when I was 7, she's like, that would be the way I wanted to die. She's like, I was like, and my dad and my brother, they were in a hot tub. And we're just sitting in a hot tub. And she's like, oh, this would be just the greatest way to die. Just a glass of champagne and then sink in. We're like, that's like the
glass
most
of champagne, though. No, like taking a disassociative and just
I'm pretty sure
what that would be like. You know,
God only knows what my pharmaceutical enhanced doctor mother was thinking would go in the champagne if that were the case. I don't know if she meant it. I think she meant it more like as a Catholic, like I could just die. But that's just, yeah, I feel like that's kind of a scary thing about that idea of like full relaxation. And maybe that's the thing, is he was trying to desperately relax.
Well, I mean, it was Freud's student who was originally his patient. I forget that lady's name, but she's really interesting. And she was the one who made the connection between the pleasure principle and the death instinct being basically mutually interdependent. So distinct, separate, and was able to explain how. And so, like, that whole argument, like, you know, there's something to that. Death instinct, pleasure principle feels relatable.
All right. Well, Thomas, unless you have a thought on that. MK Ultrasound 723. You guys are going to check out all of David's movies, music, mixes all together. Click on highlights right here. And then from highlights, you can go on down and you can see Sync Flick, Liberty, Kenneth Anger's Magic Lantern Cycle, Inauguration of the Pleasure Dome, Invocation of My Demon Brother, Lucifer Rising, and Missoni with Transparency, and paired them with the Beatles album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. So that's pretty sweet.
Is there any chance you've tried the movie Clifford with anything yet?
I was just watching Clifford. That's hilarious to bring that up. Why didn't we talk about that earlier?
Which Clifford are you talking about?
Oh, come on. The real Clifford.
Martin Short Clifford.
Yeah, don't do real Ghostbusters, real Clifford on us right now. No. Martin Short. Sorry. Honestly, you know what's messed up is that they're the same thing to me. Like when I see this dog, all I see is Martin Short's Clifford. I my entire life, because I saw this movie at the same time as I was introduced to they were both on the same day on like Prime satellite.
Well, this movie ends with his whole face-off with the Tyrannosaurus Rex ride.
Right, Larry the Scary Rex.
Yeah, Larry the Scary.
That's not where it ends. That's just the climax.
Well, yeah, you know.
It begins and ends in 2023 or something like that, right? Like,
okay. Well, towards the end of the movie, when he makes them ride in a circle on that scary Larry the T-Rex ride, he just like goes all crazy, and then the thing breaks down. Blah blah blah. But it's interesting because Clifford as a dog is kind of relatable to the T-Rex. Like people relate the T-Rex and the dog quite a bit. You know, it's a whole thing there.
The thing is, like, it starts out like with a student who's like a psychopath in the future, and he meets. It's a movie online. Oh my god, can I just find it? Scene impossible.
Which scene do you want?
When he's like,
I got a bomb, City Hall, whatever.
No,
he's like, you can't fight City Hall, and he changes it.
In the very end is where it starts in the future, and Martin Short is playing like a priest or something.
That's what you're looking for?
Okay, yeah, he's like a priest in the future. I can't find it. It doesn't matter. Whatever. He's like a priest in the future, and like it's the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie, and that's based on Going My Way with Bing Crosby, right? Because Bing Crosby is the priest, and it starts with him seeing the church where he was a boy. And when he was a boy, he came in and he cleaned up his act. And so it's this movie kind of about like liberation theology and Jesuitism. But it's about this boy who was a psychopath and what got him there. There's another movie very similar that's a little bit more violent called Pig or something like that. Pig Boy, which is an Irish movie about a kid who's got a butcher gun from a butcher, and he kills a lady and he poops on her floor, and he sees the Mother Mary the entire time. And like Mother Mary, like when he gets out of the insane asylum, he's there with him. But it's constantly this idea of like,
sounds just like Clifford.
It's really similar, actually. It's a little bit more like Pig.
And that psychopath in the beginning is Ben Savage, the little brother of Fred Savage.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I was gonna ask you. I was like, so he actually played his little brother in Little Monsters, right? With Howie Mandel, right? You know what I'm talking about?
That was Howie Mandel, yeah.
Right. But the kid who plays his brother in Little Monsters is Fred Savage's actual little brother.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's then in that too. Okay. I was wondering about that if it was the same kid. I remember feeling like that kid was going to go places. Whatever happened with him?
Probably beat somebody up. Fred Savage got in trouble recently for
punched out some Asian dude's eyeball.
Fred Savage
actually that doesn't
off
that
of the
doesn't
Wonder
cancel you.
Years set recently, and they're gonna redo the whole show without him. Or I don't know, they're making it again. Wonder Years about a black family or something now. Like
it's not horrible. It's got Don Cheadle, I think, is the narrator. I wanted to not like it because of how much I loved the original Wonder Years. It's its own thing. If you watch it and you watch it as if it's its own thing, I think they nail the vibe, and the show is good. I don't know.
Right,
I wanted to not like it, and I liked it.
No, it looks cool. I like these actors too. That's the guy.
They're all great actors. Yeah.
This is the guy from Psych. So anything.
Yeah. It's hard to not like the show unless you just go into it and you're like, I hate everything. Which some people do.
Syncbook.com needs someone to fix their DOS.
Oh, is it down right now?
Yeah, but that's okay.
Oh no.
Well, I'm sure we'll figure it out in a bit. But yeah, guys, go check out MK Ultrasound 723 and Paranoid Americans Twitter page as well. Oh, sorry. Go right there. And then yeah, tartarynova.com, like, subscribe, share, go to the Discord, join the community, ask us to talk about things. We can and then yeah, in the Discord there are also links to some of these movies. By the way, a lot of those movies we talked about are available on archive.org. So if you just type in the names of anything you saw and the word archive next to it, like a lot of time that comes up. So
also a site called F Movies that ends with a Z.
Oh, that guy. What is he even? Come on, bro.
I sense the ground quaking beneath my soul. I sense the heavens crumbling, losing control.
I'll see you guys next time. That was a lot of fun. Peace out.
Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
Synctank.